Before the Roman Empire came into existence, there was a lesser-known yet pivotal period in history, the Roman Kingdom. In this video, we will embark on a journey to explore the foundations of Rome, long before the empire's glory. Part 1. Geographical Roots of Early Rome. Understanding the geography of early Rome. Rome didn't just appear out of nowhere. Its roots lie deep within the fertile valleys of central Italy. This region, which would one day witness the rise of the greatest empire in history, was cradled between the western coastline and the central mountain range known as the Apennines. The Apennines, stretching down the spine of Italy, played a crucial role in shaping the early communities. Their rugged terrain made large-scale farming challenging, but the valleys and plains they encased provided opportunities for settlements. Among these valleys, the one carved by the Tiber River was particularly significant. The Tiber River was Rome's lifeblood. Flowing from the Apennines, it made its way to the Tyrrhenian Sea. The river didn't just provide water, it was a means of transport, a source of trade, and a natural defense. Along its banks, not too far from the sea, Rome would be founded. The proximity to the coast meant access to trade routes, and being inland offered protection from seaborne invasions. The region around the Tiber was dotted with hills. 7 of these hills became especially important, the famous 7 Hills of Rome. These were not grand mountains but rather raised areas of land that offered strategic advantages. Over time, these hills would be enveloped by the growing city of Rome, each becoming a part of the city's lore and history. The wider Italian peninsula, with its patchwork of landscapes, from the plains of the Po Valley in the north to the sun-baked lands of the south, was home to a variety of tribes and cultures. The Etruscans in the north, the Samnites in the south, and the Latin tribes in the center, among others. These groups had their own customs, traditions, and languages. However, it was in the heart of this varied landscape, on the banks of the Tiber, where the conditions were just right for a new power to emerge. The geography not only provided the necessary resources but also became a character in Rome's story, shaping its early days and setting the stage for the grand narrative to follow. The early inhabitants and their interactions. Before the rise of Rome, the Italian peninsula was a mosaic of cultures and tribes, each with its own distinct identity. The richness of this cultural tapestry is key to understanding the backdrop against which Rome emerged. To the north of the future Roman heartland were the Etruscans. They weren't just another tribe, they were an advanced civilization with their own cities, art, religion, and a system of governance. From their center in Etruria, they influenced a significant chunk of the peninsula, particularly the areas surrounding Rome. Their art, architecture, and even some aspects of their religion would leave a lasting mark on Rome. The Etruscans weren't merely neighbors, they played the role of teachers, rivals, and at times, allies. Closer to the Tiber were the Latins, from whom the Romans directly descended. They were a group of tribes that shared linguistic and cultural ties. Settling in the region that would be known as Latium, they lived in small communities, often atop hills or fortified areas. The Latin tribes' interactions, their feuds, and alliances would pave the way for the rise of a dominant community among them, Rome. The landscape was also populated by other tribes such as the Sabines and the Samnites. These tribes had their own customs and traditions, and their interactions with Rome would vary from trade to warfare, alliances to betrayals. They enriched the socio-cultural fabric of the region and provided context to Rome's rise. Their stories, though not always at the forefront, remained interwoven with the Roman tale, as allies, adversaries, and eventually, as integrated parts of the burgeoning Roman identity. The coastal areas provided another layer of complexity. The Tyrrhenian Sea was not just a body of water, it was a highway. Via this maritime route, the early Italian communities came in contact with the wider Mediterranean world. The Greeks, who had established colonies in southern Italy and Sicily, brought with them their knowledge, art, and mythology. These Greek colonies, often called Magna Graecia, or Greater Greece, introduced the early Romans to new gods, new ways of building, and new ideas. Trade, cultural exchange, conflicts, and alliances, the early days on the Italian peninsula were anything but static. As communities grew and their ambitions clashed, a certain settlement on the Tiber River was gearing up to play a central role in this dynamic landscape. That settlement was Rome, and its story was just beginning. Rise of Rome amidst the tribal tapestry. In the heart of the Italian peninsula, nestled by the Tiber River, Rome started as a humble settlement. Its precise origins, shrouded in myth and legend, hold tales of adventure, treachery, and divine intervention. The legendary founding of Rome is a story told and retold through the ages. Twin brothers, Romulus and Remus, abandoned and set adrift on the Tiber, were rescued by a she-wolf. Raised by a shepherd, they grew strong and ambitious. However, a dispute over the ideal location for a new city led Romulus to kill Remus. He then founded the city, naming it Rome after himself. This tale, blending intrigue and divine providence, underlined the Roman belief in their city's destined greatness. But Rome wasn't an instant powerhouse. It was one among many Latin settlements. As Rome grew, it absorbed neighboring communities, integrated their people, and learned from their skills. Its location on the Tiber made it a natural crossroad for trade, diplomacy, and, sometimes, conflict. It became a melting pot where Etruscan artistry, Latin resilience, and Sabine martial prowess met and mixed. Etruscan kings played a significant role in Rome's early urban development. They introduced advanced construction techniques, built infrastructure, and even influenced religious practices. This Etruscan influence was so profound that several of Rome's kings, including Tarquinius Priscus and Servius Tullius, were of Etruscan descent. Yet, Rome's relationship with the Etruscans was complex. While they benefited from Etruscan advancements, they also fought against their dominance, striving for autonomy. Over time, Rome began to assimilate the best of what surrounded them, from the Etruscans in the north to the Greeks in the south. The rise of Rome was neither swift nor uncontested. It faced internal struggles, power plays, and external threats. However, Rome had an uncanny ability to turn challenges into opportunities. When faced with a hurdle, it adapted, learned, and grew stronger. Whether it was integrating defeated enemies into their society or adopting new gods, Rome's flexibility became one of its greatest strengths. This adaptability was not just in warfare and politics but also in culture. The pantheon of Roman gods drew from various traditions, with deities like Jupiter and Juno having their counterparts in Greek, Etruscan, and other ancient religions. Festivals, art, and even daily life in Rome bore imprints of its diverse inhabitants and neighbors. As the centuries rolled on, Rome's influence began to extend beyond its city walls. Its reputation as a hub of culture, trade, and power grew. The once small Latin settlement was now setting the stage to become a republic, then an empire, influencing vast stretches of the known world. But before that grand transformation, Rome would first have to navigate through the era of kings, their achievements, failures, and the eventual desire for a republic. Part 2: Etruscan influence on early Roman history. Who were the Etruscans? Before Rome's grandeur, the Italian landscape was marked by various distinctive cultures. One of the most influential on early Roman development was the enigmatic Etruscans. Originating from the region known as Etruria, modern-day Tuscany and parts of Umbria, the Etruscans thrived between the 8th and 3rd century BCE. Unlike Rome's well-documented history, the origins of the Etruscans are somewhat of a mystery. Some ancient sources suggest they sailed from Asia Minor, while others believe they were indigenous to the Italian peninsula. Despite the debates around their roots, what's undeniable is the legacy they left behind. The Etruscans were skilled metallurgists, credited with introducing ironworking to Italy. Their influence is visible in the numerous artifacts, from ornate jewelry to intricately designed weaponry. Their cities, such as Tarquinia and Serviteri, stood out with sophisticated urban planning, including sewage systems and paved streets, far advanced for their time. But more than their technological advancements, it was the Etruscan spirit, a blend of vitality, mysticism, and hedonism, that set them apart. They celebrated life, believed in the afterlife, and held elaborate banquets that both the living and the deceased enjoyed. Their tombs, adorned with frescoes depicting daily life and feasts, offer a vivid snapshot of their rich culture. Art was a significant aspect of Etruscan society. From tomb paintings showcasing lively banquets and dances to sculptures reflecting human emotion, the Etruscans had a unique style. Their art, which was different from the more restrained classical Greek norms, depicted an exuberance and a joy of life. Even their gods, unlike the Stoic deities of the Greeks, were shown in moments of mirth and play. While they were undoubtedly advanced in many spheres, the Etruscans weren't isolated. They traded with the Greeks, learned from them, and in turn, influenced them. This exchange led to a fusion of cultures, where Etruscan art, religion, and customs started showing Greek elements, laying the foundation for what would later be the Roman way of life. The Etruscan political structure was a league of city-states, each independent yet bound together through shared culture, religion, and occasional military alliances against common threats. However, it was this fragmented nature that eventually made them vulnerable to external pressures, especially from the rising power of Rome. The Etruscan legacy to Rome was multifaceted. They played a role in transforming Rome from a village into an urban center, and their influence is seen in Roman art, religion, and architecture. This profound impact would shape Rome's trajectory in its formative years, helping mold a civilization that would dominate the ancient world. Etruscan influence on Roman culture and society. While the Etruscans and early Romans shared the Italian peninsula, their interactions were much deeper than just being neighbors. The Etruscan influence seeped into the very fabric of Roman culture, society, and governance, helping shape the Rome that history remembers. One of the most tangible imprints the Etruscans left on Roman society was urban planning. Borrowing from their architectural genius, Rome incorporated the arch into its structures. This Etruscan innovation paved the way for the grand Roman aqueducts and amphitheaters. Roads, sewage systems, and city layouts in Rome also bear the hallmark of Etruscan design. Then, there's the arena of religion. Many of the gods worshipped in Rome had Etruscan counterparts. While the names might have changed, the essence remained. Augury, or the art of predicting the future by observing bird flights and entrails patterns, was an Etruscan practice that found its way into Roman religious rituals. Beyond gods and practices, even Roman attire bore Etruscan influences. The toga, which later became emblematic of Roman citizenship, was inspired by Etruscan clothing. The vibrant Etruscan festivals, full of music, dance, and sport, were precursors to Roman public entertainment spectacles. However, it wasn't just the material and spiritual world where the Etruscans left their mark. Rome's early political landscape, especially its monarchy, was heavily Etruscan. Several of Rome's early kings hailed from Etruscan lineages, bringing with them governance practices that would blend with native Roman traditions. Etruscan women also provided a sharp contrast to their Roman counterparts. They enjoyed more freedoms, were often literate, and actively participated in public life, including attending banquets and events. This openness was initially strange to the Romans, but over time, Etruscan norms impacted Roman attitudes, leading to a more inclusive societal structure. Yet, as with all influences, the integration wasn't seamless. There were periods of resistance, adaptation, and evolution. The two cultures might have clashed occasionally, but they also enriched each other. It was this melding of traditions, this fusion of ideas, that gave Rome its multifaceted identity, an identity that would evolve but always carry the touch of its Etruscan origins. The decline of the Etruscans and Rome's rise. The Etruscans, once the dominant power of the Italian peninsula, began facing a series of challenges that gradually reduced their dominance, making way for the rise of Rome. One of the initial factors was external pressure. From the north, they confronted the Celts, who started moving down into the peninsula, while from the south, Greek colonists settled in and began to exert their influence. These external pressures meant the Etruscans were often in a state of defense, battling on multiple fronts. Internally, the Etruscan League, a loose confederation of city-states, faced its challenges. Unlike the cohesive nature of Rome, which was slowly expanding its territories, the Etruscan cities had their rivalries and disagreements. This disunity made it difficult for them to mount a united front against external threats. Trade, once an Etruscan stronghold, began to decline. Their control over the metal resources and trade routes diminished as other powers in the Mediterranean world began to ascend. The Phoenicians, Greeks, and eventually the Romans began controlling critical sea and land routes, pushing the Etruscans out of the lucrative trade game. But arguably, the most significant pressure came from Rome. As Rome grew in power and ambition, the Etruscans found themselves increasingly in conflict with this emerging city-state. Over time, Rome began to best the Etruscans in battles and skirmishes, slowly annexing Etruscan lands and cities. The final blow came with the Roman siege and eventual capture of Veii, a significant Etruscan city, in 396 BC. The Etruscan power was not wiped out overnight. The process was gradual. As Rome expanded, the Etruscan territories became Roman territories, the Etruscan people became Roman citizens, and Etruscan culture became intertwined with Roman life. However, in this process of decline and assimilation, the Etruscans ensured their legacy would endure. While their political and territorial power waned, their cultural and societal influence on Rome remained palpable. The Rome that emerged as a dominant force in the ancient world was a product of its foundations, which the Etruscans had significantly helped lay. Etruscan legacy in Roman life. The interaction between the Etruscans and the Romans was not just limited to battles and territorial conquests, it was a cultural exchange that left an indelible mark on Roman society, shaping it in various ways. Architecture is one of the most visible legacies of the Etruscans. The arch, an architectural innovation that the Etruscans popularized, was adopted and enhanced by the Romans. This design became pivotal in the construction of Roman aqueducts, bridges, and monumental buildings, enabling structures with larger spans and greater stability. In the realm of religion, many Roman deities were borrowed or influenced by the Etruscans. The concept of a triad of gods, Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva, originated from the Etruscan tradition. Augury, the practice of interpreting the will of the gods by studying the flight patterns of birds, was an Etruscan ritual that was incorporated into Roman religious practices. The toga, the iconic attire associated with the Roman elite, had its origins in Etruscan clothing. Similarly, the Roman lictors, bodyguards bearing fasces, a bundle of rods with an axe symbolizing authority, were derived from Etruscan traditions. Etruscan art and craft, renowned for its quality, also influenced Roman aesthetics. Etruscan bronze work, pottery, and sculpting techniques were integrated into Roman art, enriching it in the process. The tomb paintings and wall frescoes found in Etruscan burial sites are echoed in Roman homes and public buildings, showcasing a blend of both cultures. The Etruscan influence was not limited to tangible objects. Their social customs and entertainment forms were also embraced by the Romans. The spectacle of gladiatorial games, for instance, has its roots in Etruscan funeral rites. The Romans adopted and magnified this form of entertainment, making it a central part of their cultural identity. While the political dominance of the Etruscans faded, their cultural influence persisted and melded into the very fabric of Roman society. This synthesis of cultures created a rich tapestry of traditions, customs, and innovations that would become emblematic of Rome and its vast empire. The Etruscan legacy, thus, lived on, echoing in the grandeur of Roman achievements. Part 3. Highlights of the Early Kings of Rome. The Founding and Romulus. The story of Rome is as much myth as it is history, blending the boundaries between divine intervention and human ambition. Central to this narrative is the tale of Romulus, the man who gave Rome its name and its foundation. Born alongside his twin brother, Remus, the duo's origin was steeped in the supernatural. They were the offspring of the god Mars and the mortal princess Rhea Silvia. However, their divine lineage didn't protect them from adversity in their infancy. Seen as threats to the throne by King Aemilius, they were abandoned on the banks of the Tiber River, left to the elements. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. The twins were discovered and nurtured by a she-wolf, a symbol that would later become synonymous with Rome itself. Under the watchful eyes of the she-wolf and a shepherd named Tullus, they grew strong and ambitious. As the years passed, the twins sought to establish a city of their own. However, a disagreement arose over the city's location, and the tension reached its climax with Romulus taking the life of his brother. On the Palatine Hill, Romulus marked the boundaries of the city that would bear his name. With this act, Rome was born. Romulus's leadership wasn't limited to just founding the city. He was a visionary, understanding the need for a well-structured society and a formidable army. He established the Roman Senate, a council of elders that would play a pivotal role in the city's governance. Additionally, recognizing the demographic imbalance with more men than women, he orchestrated the Sabine women's abduction to ensure the city's survival and growth. Rome, under Romulus, was more than just a city, it was an idea, a beacon of civilization and power in a fragmented world. The traditions and systems put in place by its first king would influence its trajectory, propelling it from a humble settlement to an empire. Numa Pompilius, the religious reformer. Following Romulus's dynamic rule, Rome was without a monarch. It's said that, for an entire year, Rome was without a king, guided only by the Senate. However, the essence of Rome has always been its ability to evolve, to adapt, and to look beyond its walls for inspiration. Enter Numa Pompilius, the Sabine from the city of Cures. Unlike Romulus, who was a warrior at heart, Numa brought a different energy to the throne. He was more philosopher than fighter, a thinker who believed in the power of faith and the divine. Recognizing that Rome was a melting pot of different cultures, tribes, and traditions, Numa set about creating a cohesive religious identity for this burgeoning city. His reign was marked by a series of religious and cultural reforms. He divided the Roman clergy into distinct orders, including the pontiffs, vestals, and augurs, each playing a unique role in the spiritual life of Rome. These orders were crucial, they acted as the bridge between the mortal realm and the divine, ensuring the gods' favor and protection. Numa also introduced a lunar calendar to replace the earlier one, which was based on the inconsistent phases of the moon. This calendar, with its 12 months and days dedicated to feasts and religious observances, became a cornerstone of Roman life. Perhaps most importantly, Numa's reign was a time of peace. He avoided wars and conflicts, believing that a prosperous Rome was one where its citizens could live without fear, focus on their farms, families, and faith. To ensure this, he erected the Temple of Janus, its doors to remain open in times of war and closed during peace. Under Numa, those doors stayed firmly shut. By the time of his death, Numa had firmly embedded religion into the fabric of Roman society. Through his wise and peaceful rule, he laid the spiritual foundation upon which the grand edifice of Rome would rise. Tullus Hostilius, the Expansionist. Following the peaceful reign of Numa Pompilius, the Roman kingdom witnessed another shift in leadership. Tullus Hostilius ascended the throne, bringing a starkly contrasting personality to his predecessor. Where Numa was a spiritual guide, Tullus was an aggressive warrior, eager to expand Rome's territories and showcase its growing might. Rome, under Tullus, was on the move. The new king wasn't content with mere peace, he yearned for conquests and military accolades. The most renowned of his campaigns was against the neighboring city of Alba Longa. Instead of a traditional prolonged war, the fate of the two cities was decided in a unique way, a combat between two sets of triplet brothers, the Roman Horatii and the Alban Curiatii. This legendary duel, with its twists and dramatic conclusion, encapsulated the fierce spirit of the Roman kingdom under Tullus. Emerging victorious, Rome absorbed Alba Longa, growing in both territory and population. This annexation was strategic. it brought not just land but also influential families under Roman dominion, solidifying the city's position as a significant regional power. But Tullus's ambitions didn't stop there. He had a vision of a unified Italian peninsula under Roman control, and he made significant strides towards this goal. He engaged in wars with the Sabines, another neighboring tribe, and the Etruscans, pushing Rome's boundaries even further. However, as is often the case with aggressive expansion, Tullus's reign wasn't without its challenges. His continuous wars took a toll on the Roman populace, and there were whispers of divine discontent. Legend holds that Tullus's lack of respect for religious rituals angered the gods, leading to his ultimate demise in a burst of celestial fire. By the end of his rule, the Roman map had changed. Rome had grown, not just in size but in confidence, its eyes set firmly on the broader horizons ahead. The city was no longer just a powerful entity on the banks of the Tiber, it was becoming the heart of Italy, pulsating with ambition and drive. Ancus Marcius, bridging cultures and territories. Ancus Marcius, the fourth king of Rome, found himself at the helm of a city in flux. With the echoes of Tullus's expansionist policies still resonating, Ancus had the challenging task of both continuing Rome's territorial growth and ensuring internal stability. Taking cues from his predecessors, he balanced both warlike strategies and diplomatic advances. Unlike the aggressive Tullus, Ancus drew inspiration from Numa's peaceful governance, looking to integrate the surrounding Latin tribes more amicably. This dual approach of diplomacy and military might marked a significant phase in Rome's evolution. It wasn't about mere conquest, it was about assimilation, merging cultures, and forming alliances. One of his notable achievements was the establishment of the Ianiculum, a fortified hill on the western banks of the Tiber. This wasn't just a military outpost but a strategic move, bringing regions across the river under Rome's influence. He also constructed the Pons Sublicius, Rome's first wooden bridge, facilitating easier communication and transport between the two banks. This bridge was more than a physical connector, it symbolized Rome's intent to reach out, merge, and expand. Further expanding Rome's reach, Ancus turned his attention to the coastal regions. Recognizing the potential of maritime trade and naval dominance, he established the port city of Ostia. This opened up a world of possibilities for the kingdom, ushering in trade routes and fostering interactions with distant cultures. However, Ancus was not just about territorial gains. He understood the importance of internal harmony for a growing kingdom. Thus, he streamlined various religious and legal codes, bridging the gap between the old Roman ways and the practices of newly assimilated tribes. Upon reflection, Ancus Marcius's reign can be seen as a masterstroke in balanced leadership. He knew when to extend the olive branch and when to wield the sword. Under him, Rome was not just expanding, it was evolving, transforming from a dominant city to a hub of cultural amalgamation and strategic brilliance. Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, the Etruscan Ascendant. Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, commonly known as Tarquin the Elder, wasn't originally Roman. He hailed from the Etruscan city of Tarquinii. His rise to power was anything but straightforward, with legend saying that he migrated to Rome with his wife Tanaquil. What's intriguing is how an outsider, an Etruscan, came to rule the heart of Latium. Once in Rome, Tarquin was quick to gain prominence. His intelligence, charisma, and foresight made him popular. And with Tanaquil's astute political acumen, Tarquin swiftly rose through the ranks, finally ascending the throne after the death of Ancus Marcius. With his background, Tarquin brought a taste of Etruscan grandeur to Rome. His reign saw monumental architectural projects. The Circus Maximus, a massive chariot racing stadium that would become a symbol of Roman entertainment, was one of his grand ventures. Its vastness and splendor were unparalleled, becoming the center stage for many of Rome's grand festivals and events. Then came the construction of Rome's great sewer system, the Cloaca Maxima. While a sewer might not sound glorious, in terms of civil engineering and public health, this was a marvel. The efficient drainage system played a pivotal role in preventing floods, maintaining sanitation, and paving the way for the city's future expansion. Beyond architecture, Tarquin had an eye on military endeavors. He waged wars, notably against the Latins, expanding Rome's territories and influence. But his approach to conquest was methodical. Instead of sheer domination, he believed in the amalgamation of cultures, turning subdued enemies into allies, an echo of Rome's age-old strategy. Tarquin's reign also saw a significant step in administrative reform. Realizing the need for better governance as the kingdom expanded, he introduced the establishment of the Senate's additional 100 members, representing newly integrated regions, ensuring they had a voice in the kingdom's future. In hindsight, Lucius Tarquinius Priscus's reign was transformative. He laid down infrastructural and administrative cornerstones that would hold Rome in good stead for centuries. The Etruscan king of Rome was not just a conqueror, he was a visionary builder, merging two worlds and crafting a legacy that stands tall in the annals of history. Servius Tullius, the social reformer. In the wake of Tarquin the Elder's rule came a leader not by blood, but by merit, Servius Tullius. His story of ascent is unusual, born of a slave yet destined for greatness. Legends whisper of heavenly signs that foretold his future kingship, like the flames that danced around his head as an infant without causing harm, a marvel observed by his mother and the royal family. However, what truly etched Servius Tullius in the annals of history were his revolutionary reforms. Rome was evolving, and the old tribal structures couldn't keep up with the city's expansion and increasing diversity. Servius recognized the need for change. First came the census. The very idea of counting and classifying the populace was groundbreaking. This wasn't just about numbers, though. By grouping Romans based on their wealth, Servius laid the foundations for the centuriate assembly. This system ensured that the wealthy contributed more to the state, especially in military service, but it also granted them more say in public decisions. Yet, it wasn't a move to simply appease the rich. Servius also restructured Rome's very tribal fabric. He expanded the original 3 tribes into 4 urban tribes, based on geography rather than lineage. This move democratized representation, allowing more Romans a voice, breaking the shackles of pure lineage-based power. His city walls, the Servian walls, were another testament to his foresight. Encircling the 7 hills of Rome, these walls were a silent proclamation of Rome's growing prominence. They were both a protective barrier and a symbol of a united, expanding Rome. Tragically, Servius Tullius's reign met a violent end. But no conspiracy, not even the treachery of his own daughter Tullia and her ambitious husband Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, could overshadow his legacy. Through his reforms, Servius ensured that Rome wasn't just growing in size but also in its social and political complexity. The Rome that transitioned to the Republic had the fingerprints of Servius Tullius all over it, a city not just of kings and warriors, but of a diverse, dynamic populace ready to shape their own destiny. Part 4. Events leading up to the creation of the Roman Republic in 509 BCE. The increasing tyranny of Tarquinius Superbus. In the chronicles of Rome's early history, few names evoke as much dread as that of Lucius Tarquinius Superbus. The moniker Superbus translates to the proud, and for good reason. He wasn't the original creator of the Roman kingdom's throne, that honor went to Romulus, Rome's mythical founder. However, Tarquin left an indelible mark, one etched with pride, ambition, and tyranny. Tarquinius Superbus, or Tarquin the Proud, rose to power not through the people's will or divine intervention, but through cunning and treachery. He ascended the throne by orchestrating the brutal assassination of his predecessor and father-in-law, Servius Tullius. Tarquin's own wife, Tullia, played a pivotal role in this plot, showcasing the lengths they were willing to go to seize control. Once in power, Tarquin's methods became even more despotic. He eliminated several senators whom he viewed as threats, creating a void which he filled with loyalists. This allowed him to consolidate power and reduce the Senate's role from a body of guidance and collaboration to mere puppets dancing to Tarquin's tunes. Further, Tarquin was not one to shy away from military conquests. He launched campaigns against neighboring states like Gabii, employing tactics that were as much psychological as they were brutal. One chilling tale tells of his son, Sextus, feigning exile and resorting to treachery to bring the city to its knees. Tarquin also undertook massive infrastructure projects in Rome, most notably the completion of the Temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus. These feats, while remarkable, were overshadowed by the heavy taxes he imposed on the Roman populace to fund them. It wasn't just Tarquin's political and military machinations that evoked fear, it was his unpredictable nature. He disregarded Roman customs and traditions, ruling with an iron fist and often acting on whims, making him unpredictable and dangerous. This brewing storm of arrogance, disdain for tradition, and cruelty would lead to events that forever changed the course of Rome's history. The tragic tale of Lucretia. While Tarquin's reign was marked by oppression and fear, it was an incident involving his son that truly exposed the depths of the royal family's depravity and set the stage for a monumental shift in Roman governance. Sextus Tarquinius, the king's son, was known for his own share of recklessness and arrogance, but it was a heinous act against a noble woman that forever sealed his infamy in Roman history. The woman's name was Lucretia. Lucretia was the wife of Lucius Tarquinius Collateralinius, a respected Roman nobleman. One evening, inflamed by lust and devoid of moral restraint, Sextus Tarquinius violated Lucretia. This atrocious act wasn't just a personal tragedy, it was a statement of the unchecked power and audacity the royal family felt they held over their subjects. But Lucretia, in her despair, wasn't silenced. She called on her father and husband, recounting the horror she had faced. Heartbroken and overwhelmed by the gravity of the event and the weight of her perceived dishonor, she took her own life. But before that, she expressed a desire for vengeance and justice, urging her family to act. Her death was a spark in a Rome ripe for revolt. The tale of Lucretia encapsulated the tyranny of the Tarquin family, a poignant example of how power, left unchecked, can lead to grave injustices. This event galvanized the Roman nobility and populace, giving them a rallying point against the monarchy. The lines had been drawn, and Rome was on the brink of a revolution. The tragedy of Lucretia was more than a personal tragedy, it was a catalyst for change, pushing Rome towards a new era. The Uprising and Birth of the Republic. With Lucretia's tragic tale echoing through the corridors of Rome, discontent against the monarchy surged like a raging river. The streets whispered tales of rebellion, and calls for justice grew louder. The royal house of Tarquin, once thought invincible, was now facing the ire of its own people. At the forefront of this movement stood Lucius Junius Brutus, a figure as intriguing as the legends surrounding him. A close ally of the royal family and a purported friend to Tarquinius Superbus, Brutus was, in fact, secretly harboring resentments. Rumor had it that the king had earlier orchestrated the deaths of Brutus' own kin. And now, the violation and subsequent death of Lucretia provided the spark needed to act upon these pent-up feelings. Brutus saw this as an opportunity not just for personal vengeance but for the establishment of a system that would prevent such unchecked tyranny. Rallying around him were other powerful figures of Rome, including the grieving Lucius Tarquinius Collateralinius and the influential Publius Valerius Poplicola. Together, they mobilized the Roman population, using the tragic tale of Lucretia as a reminder of the monarchy's excesses. Brutus himself dramatically swore an oath in the Roman Forum, promising to oust Tarquin and end the reign of kings in Rome. The energy was palpable, and the revolution was in motion. Battles ensued, notably the Battle of Silva Arcia, where, though the Republicans were victorious, it came at the cost of Brutus' life. Yet, his legacy and the dream of a republic lived on. In the wake of these tumultuous events, the monarchy was officially overthrown in 509 BCE. The Roman Republic was born. This new system, designed as an antidote to the unchecked power of monarchs, was characterized by checks and balances. Instead of a single ruler, 2 consuls would be elected annually, ensuring that no one person wielded absolute power. Tarquinius Superbus, the last king of Rome, was banished, never to return. The city had turned a page, closing the chapter on monarchies and welcoming a new era of republicanism. This shift was more than just political, it marked a profound cultural and ideological transformation for Rome, laying the foundations for the grand empire it was destined to become. The birth of Roman institutions. With the monarchy dissolved, Rome stood at the brink of a new era. But casting aside a king didn't merely denote an end, it marked a beginning. The Republic wasn't just a change in leadership, it was a shift in governance structures and an evolution in political thinking. Without a monarch at the helm, the city needed new structures to ensure stability. Thus came into being the consuls, the heart of the Roman Republic's executive branch. 2 consuls, elected for a 1-year term, were vested with the duties and powers that once belonged to the king. Yet, the brilliance of this dual arrangement lay in its inherent checks and balances. The consuls could veto each other's decisions, ensuring a system of mutual oversight. But the consuls weren't the sole leaders of the Republic. The Senate, an advisory council even during the monarchic period, now assumed greater prominence. Comprising patricians, the Senate became a powerful force in Roman politics, shaping legislation and influencing foreign relations. The establishment of the Roman assemblies, particularly the centuriate and tribal assemblies, was yet another groundbreaking evolution. By providing different segments of Roman society a voice, albeit in varying degrees, these assemblies added another layer to Rome's growing democracy. However, the challenge lay in ensuring that no single entity wielded unchecked power. Thus, additional offices were established. The praetor took over judicial responsibilities, the censor handled the census, and the role of the aedile encompassed care for the city's maintenance and festivals. Religion, too, experienced restructuring. The king's once sacred duties were divided, with the Rex Sacrorum overseeing specific religious rites and the Pontifex Maximus becoming the high priest of Roman religion, wielding considerable influence both spiritually and politically. This whirlwind of institutional changes wasn't just about dispersing power. It was about reimagining governance, creating a framework that would stand resilient for centuries. And while these early days of the Republic were not without their teething issues, the foundation they laid was solid. The Republic, in its wisdom, ensured that Rome did not crumble in the absence of a monarch but soared to unparalleled heights. The downfall of the monarchy. A society's values and morals often act as the bedrock of its governance. In Rome, the kingdom's decline was not just a product of political maneuvers but a reflection of a society outraged by the erosion of its core values. The events that transpired around the figure of Lucretia embody this. Lucretia, known in Roman lore as a paragon of virtue, faced unspeakable trauma at the hands of Sextus Tarquinius, the king's son. This act was not just a personal affront but became symbolic of the monarchy's decay and its departure from Roman virtues. Lucretia's heartbreaking tale, her eventual tragic decision, and the subsequent uprising illuminate how personal narratives can shape the fate of empires. Driven by a righteous fury, Lucretia's kin, led by Lucius Junius Brutus and Lucius Tarquinius Collateralinius, rallied the Roman populace. The rage against the Tarquin family and, by extension, the entire monarchical system, was palpable. No longer was the king viewed as a protector or a leader, he had become a tyrant in the eyes of many. Lucius Junius Brutus, in particular, emerged as a beacon of change. His passionate orations not only condemned the Tarquins but also proposed a new vision for Rome, a republic where power was shared, and leaders were accountable. The monarchy had lost its moral authority to govern, and the time was ripe for its replacement. The insurrection that followed saw Tarquinius Superbus and his kin expelled from Rome, their legacy tainted forever. As the gates of Rome shut behind the Tarquins, they also closed on the era of Roman kingship. From the ashes of the monarchy rose the Roman Republic, a new political structure, a new vision, but above all, a new hope. Part 5: Social Structure of the Roman Kingdom. The social hierarchy, understanding the basics. In the Roman kingdom, society was a tapestry of class distinctions, each layer with its own set of rights, responsibilities, and privileges. At the pinnacle of this structure were the patricians, a small yet dominant class of aristocrats who held political and religious offices. Their lineage and noble birth granted them this elevated status. Below them were the plebeians, a vast and diverse group encompassing artisans, farmers, merchants, and more. Despite their numbers, they often found themselves out of political power, leading to tension and social upheaval as they pushed for rights and representation. The base of this societal pyramid was formed by slaves, captured in wars or born into servitude. They were considered property and had limited rights. Their roles spanned from household chores to more specialized tasks like teaching or accounting. Some slaves were even used in construction projects or in mines. Between these rigid classes were the freedmen, those who had been slaves but later achieved their freedom. Their new status allowed them to engage in trades and sometimes amass wealth. However, despite their freedom, they were still restricted in certain aspects of civic participation. This hierarchy wasn't just about status, it was interwoven with economic realities, political maneuvering, and the ever-evolving dynamics of power. As the Roman kingdom expanded and evolved, so did the roles and rights of these classes, setting the stage for some of the most significant political reforms and social changes in history. Patricians, the privileged elite. The patricians were more than just a class, they were the epitome of privilege in the Roman kingdom. With roots tracing back to the earliest days of Rome, they held a monopoly on the most influential religious and political offices. Their status was inherited, which means one had to be born into a patrician family to claim the rights and privileges associated with the title. Patrician families were seen as the custodians of tradition and heritage. They boasted of their ancestors' achievements and often displayed wax masks of their forefathers in their homes, a testament to their legacy and importance. Their wealth was evident not just in the luxurious villas and estates they owned but also in the influence they wielded in society. They often acted as patrons, providing financial support or protection to those lower in the social hierarchy in exchange for loyalty and services, a system known as clientela. However, their dominance wasn't without challenges. As Rome grew, so did the clamor of the plebeians for representation and rights. The patricians, in their bid to maintain power, often had to navigate these demands, leading to a series of compromises and reforms that would shape the trajectory of the Roman political landscape. Yet, amid the political maneuvering, one thing was certain: being a patrician in the Roman kingdom came with responsibilities, but it also provided unparalleled advantages, shaping the destiny of the city and its inhabitants. Plebeians, the commoner's struggle and strength. The plebeians were the backbone of the Roman kingdom. Contrary to the privileged status of the patricians, plebeians encompassed a vast and diverse group of common folk. From farmers and artisans to merchants and soldiers, they represented the majority of the Roman population. Yet, despite their numbers, they started with limited rights in the political realm of the early Roman society. The struggle of the plebeians was primarily for representation. While they contributed significantly to Rome's economy and military might, they lacked a voice in the governing institutions. This disparity became the source of ongoing tension between the plebeians and the patricians. Over time, the continuous push for rights led to remarkable changes. The establishment of the tribunes of the plebs was a pivotal moment. These tribunes, elected by plebeians, had the power to intervene on behalf of the plebeians and veto any laws they found unfavorable. This office was a tangible sign of the plebeians' emerging political power. Aside from politics, plebeians were also integral to Rome's cultural fabric. They participated in festivals, contributed to religious ceremonies, and were key players in the trade networks that helped Rome flourish. The journey of the plebeians wasn't merely about gaining political rights, it was about asserting their value and place in the broader Roman narrative. As the years rolled on, the distinction between patricians and plebeians blurred, especially with intermarriage and the rise of wealthy plebeian families. The story of the plebeians is a testament to the power of collective effort. Their endeavors, challenges, and victories showcase how a group, once sidelined, can alter the course of history through determination and unity. Slaves and freedmen, the shadows of Roman society. Slavery was a fundamental pillar of Roman society, with slaves present at almost every level of the Roman hierarchy. Whether working the vast agricultural estates, serving in Roman households, laboring in mines, or being used as entertainers or gladiators, slaves were ubiquitous. Most slaves in Rome were captives from wars, hailing from diverse regions. This meant that many were well-educated or had specific skills, making them valuable assets in the bustling Roman economy. A Greek tutor for Roman children or a skilled artisan could very well be a slave. While the life of a slave was often harsh and filled with uncertainty, it wasn't devoid of hope. There was the possibility of manumission, the act of a master freeing a slave. Manumitted slaves became freedmen. This new status allowed them to partake in business and other societal roles, but there were restrictions. They couldn't hold major public offices, and their children, while free, would carry the heritage of their enslaved parents. Freedmen often remained loyal to their former masters, who became their patrons. This relationship was mutually beneficial. The patron would offer protection and support, while the freedman would offer services or other forms of assistance. Over time, some freedmen amassed considerable wealth and influence, further blurring the lines between the classes. Yet, it's essential to note that not all slaves were fortunate to secure their freedom. Many lived and died in servitude, their stories lost to history. They were the silent wheels that turned the great machine of the Roman kingdom. Despite their critical role in the functioning of Rome, slaves and freedmen lived on the fringes of society. Their narrative offers a lens into the complexities of Roman life, where status, loyalty, and freedom interplayed in myriad ways, reflecting both the grandeur and the contradictions of the Roman kingdom. Women in the Roman kingdom. The roles and rights of women in the Roman kingdom provide a fascinating glimpse into the societal norms and expectations of this ancient civilization. Women, though not endowed with the same legal and political rights as men, played indispensable roles in family, religion, and certain economic spheres. Family was the cornerstone of Roman society. Within this domain, the paterfamilias, the male head of the household, held significant power. However, women, primarily as mothers and wives, were revered for their virtuous qualities, particularly their ability to produce and rear heirs. The stories of women like Lucretia, whose virtue became legendary, show the esteem in which moral integrity was held. Women also played vital roles in religious rites and ceremonies. They served as Vestal virgins, priestesses who tended to the sacred flame of Vesta, Rome's hearth goddess. This role was one of the few that allowed women to avoid marriage and the oversight of a male guardian. Their chastity and dedication to the goddess were believed to protect the city. Economically, women could own and inherit property, especially if they were from wealthy families. However, their ability to engage in business transactions was limited. Most women, particularly from elite classes, spent their lives indoors, engaged in domestic affairs, weaving being a common occupation. However, some women from lower socioeconomic backgrounds worked outside, in roles such as tavern keepers, midwives, or merchants. Marriage in the Roman kingdom was less about romance and more about social alliances and property. While women had limited say in their marriage decisions, they were expected to bring a dowry and form bonds that could elevate their family's status. Despite these limitations, many Roman women managed to exert influence behind the scenes. Their roles as confidants, advisors, and, at times, as power brokers, cannot be underestimated. Stories of influential Roman women, from behind the gilded doors of the wealthy to the bustling streets of the market, remind us that Rome's narrative is as much about its daughters as it is about its sons. Slaves and freedmen in the Roman kingdom. In the vast tapestry of Roman society, slaves and freedmen held positions that ranged from the depths of hardship to unexpected heights of influence and affluence. These two groups, while starkly different in status and rights, together offer insights into the complex dynamics of freedom, servitude, and social mobility in the Roman kingdom. Slavery was an integral part of the Roman economic system. Slaves were acquired from various sources. They might be prisoners of war, people sold into debt, or individuals who were kidnapped and sold on the slave market. The Roman kingdom expanded its territories and influence, and with this expansion came a steady influx of slaves from different regions, bringing with them their skills, culture, and knowledge. The life of a slave varied greatly based on their roles and their owners. Many performed backbreaking labor in fields or mines under severe conditions. Others worked in households, where they cooked, cleaned, tutored children, or served as personal attendants. Some slaves with specific skills, like teachers, doctors, or artisans, were treated relatively better due to their specialized knowledge. It's vital to understand that slaves were considered property. They had no legal rights, and their owners had significant power over their lives, including the authority to punish, sell, or even execute them. However, this isn't to say that all slaves were treated harshly. Some were even considered part of the family by their masters, although this familial bond didn't change their legal status. Amid this hierarchical structure was the possibility of manumission, the act of a slave being freed by their owner. Upon gaining freedom, these individuals became freedmen. They no longer belonged to someone else and gained certain rights, such as the ability to own property or engage in trade. However, they couldn't hold certain public offices and carried the social stigma of their enslaved past. Often, freedmen remained connected to their former masters, either out of obligation or as a means to secure their newfound status. They could amass significant wealth and influence, particularly if they ventured into business or trade. The relationship between slaves, freedmen, and the broader Roman society was intricate. While slavery was a foundational institution of Roman life, so too was the potential for mobility and change. From the shadows of servitude emerged stories of resilience, ambition, and the undying hope for a better future. Interactions and tensions among social classes. As Rome grew and flourished, its various social strata began to intersect in ways both harmonious and contentious. The lines dividing patricians, plebeians, slaves, and freedmen were not just about status, they influenced every aspect of daily life, from commerce and politics to culture and personal relationships. Patricians, holding the reins of power and privilege, often acted as patrons to those of lesser status, especially plebeians. This system of patronage wasn't merely a display of benevolence. Plebeians, in exchange for support and protection, would lend their services or loyalty, creating a mutual relationship of give and take. This interconnectedness ensured that the wealthy and influential had a vested interest in the well-being of their less privileged counterparts. However, tensions were inevitable. Plebeians, despite their increasing numbers and significance in the Roman economy, often felt sidelined from political decision-making. Over time, their demands for more rights and representation grew louder. Situations where a patrician might exploit a plebeian under his patronage only exacerbated these tensions. Disparities in wealth, access to resources, and legal rights were constant reminders of the divide. Within the urban sprawl of Rome, public spaces became arenas where these interactions played out. Markets, temples, and forums witnessed daily exchanges between individuals of all statuses. Here, a patrician could commission a statue from a skilled plebeian artisan, or a freedman might negotiate trade deals with wealthier counterparts. Yet, these interactions weren't always about business. Cultural exchanges were vital. The stories, traditions, and knowledge that slaves brought from far-off lands enriched Roman culture. Many Roman households adopted customs and gods from these different cultures, blending them into a uniquely Roman tapestry. The tensions between the classes weren't merely a backdrop, they were the catalyst for change. Plebeian protests and strikes led to landmark decisions like the establishment of the 12 Tables, a codified set of laws that, for the first time, offered some semblance of legal equality. In the Roman kingdom, as territories expanded and diverse peoples were integrated, the challenge was not just about managing vast lands but also navigating the intricate web of social dynamics. The era was marked not just by military conquests and architectural marvels, but by the push and pull of social forces that shaped the destiny of the Roman state. Part 6: Expansion of Rome's territories. Initial territorial acquisitions, Rome's early neighbors and conquests. The tale of Rome's rise as a territorial power commences with its early interactions with neighboring cities and tribes. In its formative years, Rome was just another settlement amongst many on the Italian peninsula. The lands around the city were a mosaic of cultures and peoples, from the Etruscans in the north, the Sabines to the northeast, and the Latin cities dotted across the landscape. The vast majority of Rome's initial expansion was focused on the Italian peninsula, a process that spanned centuries. One pivotal conquest was the capture of Alba Longa, a city believed to be founded by descendants of Aeneas and a place deeply connected to Rome's mythical past. Its fall was significant not just in terms of territory but for its symbolism, showcasing Rome's burgeoning dominance in the region. The Latin War, occurring between 340 and 338 BCE, was another crucial juncture. Rome was pitted against the Latin League, an alliance of cities trying to curtail Rome's growing influence. The war culminated in Rome's victory, leading to the annexation of much of Latium. This not only expanded Rome's territory but also bolstered its manpower, as defeated Latin allies became part of Rome's military structure. Next came Rome's encounters with the Samnites, a mountain people of south-central Italy. The Samnite Wars, spread across 5 decades, were a series of brutal conflicts that tested Rome's military prowess. Success in these wars paved the way for Rome to expand further south, ultimately bringing them into contact and conflict with the Greek cities of Magna Graecia. Another significant conquest was the region of Etruria, once home to the mighty Etruscan civilization. Over time, Rome's persistent campaigns whittled away at Etruscan power, leading to the eventual absorption of their cities and culture. In many of these early conquests, Rome demonstrated a blend of military might and cunning diplomacy. They often granted Roman citizenship to defeated foes, allowing for integration rather than subjugation. This policy not only secured loyalty but also provided Rome with a steadily growing pool of soldiers and resources, setting the stage for future conquests beyond the Italian peninsula. By the end of the Kingdom period and the early Republic, Rome had secured its position as the dominant force in Italy, but this was just the start. Ahead lay challenges and wars that would extend Roman influence from the sun-baked sands of North Africa to the rain-swept hills of Britannia. The stage was set for Rome's transition from a regional power to a Mediterranean juggernaut. The push south and the tussle with Magna Graecia. Moving further south, the magnetic allure of Magna Graecia beckoned Rome. This Greater Greece was a patchwork of thriving Greek city-states, each with its own distinct character, settled long before Rome's rise. These Greek settlements, with cities like Cumae, Tarentum, and Neapolis, were beacons of culture and commerce on the Italian peninsula. Their very existence offered Rome not only territorial advantages but also opportunities for cultural enrichment. Tarentum, one of the most influential of these Greek cities, had a complex relationship with Rome. Initially, relations were cordial, largely because of a treaty that restricted Roman ships from entering the Gulf of Taranto. However, as Rome's influence grew, so did their ambitions, leading to tensions with Tarentum. A seemingly minor naval violation by the Romans saw Tarentum's response in the form of attacking and sinking Roman ships. This act ignited the fuse for a larger conflict. The Pyrrhic War, named after King Pyrrhus of Epirus, who came to the aid of Tarentum, unfolded between 280 and 275 BCE. Pyrrhus was a formidable strategist and his presence on the battlefield, along with his war elephants, posed a serious challenge for Rome. Although the term Pyrrhic victory originates from this war, denoting a win at too great a cost, it was Rome who eventually emerged triumphant. Pyrrhus, despite early victories, couldn't maintain his momentum and was forced to return to Epirus. The war's conclusion signaled a seismic shift in the balance of power in southern Italy. Tarentum and many other Greek cities came under Roman influence, either through direct control or as allies. Along with territorial gains, Rome absorbed much of the Greek culture, leading to a Hellenization phase. This cultural synthesis enriched Rome in various domains, from art and architecture to philosophy and theater. It wasn't just a mere territorial acquisition for Rome but a fusion of two of the ancient world's most profound civilizations. This blending laid foundational stones for what we often refer to as Greco-Roman culture, a vibrant tapestry that would greatly shape the course of Western civilization. The Gallic Wars and expansion northward. While the south was a complex dance with Greek city-states, the north presented its own unique challenges. Here, the Gauls, tribes known for their fierce warriors and distinctive culture, dominated the landscape. For Rome, these lands were not just about territorial gain, but about securing their frontiers against potential threats. The first significant encounter with the Gauls was not on Rome's terms. In 390 BCE, the Gauls, under their chieftain Brennus, managed a startling victory, famously sacking Rome. The trauma of this invasion left an indelible mark on the Roman psyche, fueling a determination to ensure it never happened again. As Rome rebuilt and expanded, they remained wary of the Gallic threat. Fast forward to the mid-3rd century BCE, and Rome, now a burgeoning power, began actively pushing into Gallic territories. The regions of Cisalpine Gaul, the land, on this side of the Alps, from Rome's perspective, became a particular focus. Its fertile plains, suitable for both farming and settlement, made it a tantalizing prospect. Wars in this region were not just about conquering new territories but also about establishing secure routes, particularly the Via Flaminia, an essential road linking Rome to the Adriatic Sea. As Roman legions marched, city after city, from Placentia to Mediolanum, modern-day Milan, fell under their sway. However, it wasn't a simple conquest. The Gauls resisted fiercely, and multiple rebellions erupted. One notable uprising was the Boii Revolt, which saw Roman colonies under siege. But with typical Roman resilience and strategy, each rebellion was methodically quashed. By the end of the 2nd century BCE, most of Cisalpine Gaul was firmly under Roman control. The integration of these lands brought with it not only resources but also the challenge of assimilating the Gallic tribes into the Roman way of life. This process, while fraught with tensions, gradually saw the Gauls adopting Roman customs, language, and governance structures. In return, Rome was influenced by Gallic traditions, especially in artistry and craftsmanship. This northern conquest solidified Rome's control over the Italian peninsula, making it an uncontested power in the region. Yet, as with every expansion, it set the stage for new adventures and challenges, particularly the beckoning vastness of the territories beyond the Alps. The southward expansion, encounters with Carthage. To the south, across the Mediterranean, lay the prosperous city of Carthage, a Phoenician colony turned independent power. Established on the coast of modern-day Tunisia, Carthage emerged as a dominant sea power, its influence stretching across northern Africa, Sardinia, Corsica, and parts of Sicily. It was inevitable that Rome, with its aspirations of dominance, would cross paths with this maritime giant. The struggle for dominance between these two superpowers culminated in the Punic Wars, a series of 3 devastating conflicts spread over more than a century. The First Punic War, 264 to 241 BCE, was ignited by a dispute over Sicily. Both powers saw the island, rich in resources and strategically located, as essential for their ambitions. For over 2 decades, battles raged on land and sea. A notable naval battle was at Mylae, where Rome, though inexperienced in sea warfare, showed its adaptability by devising the corvus, a boarding bridge, turning naval battles into infantry confrontations. The war concluded with Rome's victory, marking Sicily as its first overseas province. However, the defeat in the First Punic War left Carthage seeking new territories for expansion. Their sights turned to Spain, rich in silver. Under the leadership of the Barcid family, especially the famed Hannibal Barca, they established a strong base in Iberia. This expansion set the stage for the Second Punic War, 218 to 201 BCE. The name Hannibal would forever be etched in Roman memory due to his audacious crossing of the Alps to bring the war directly to the Italian peninsula. For over a decade, Rome faced threats within its very heartland, the most stinging being their defeat at the Battle of Cannae in 216 BCE. However, Rome's fortunes turned when Scipio Africanus took the fight to Carthage's doorstep, culminating in the pivotal Battle of Zama in 202 BCE, where Hannibal was finally defeated. The Third Punic War, 149 to 146 BCE, was more straightforward. Rome, still distrustful and eager to eliminate any future threat from Carthage, laid siege to the city. After a fierce resistance, Carthage fell, its walls razed, and its territories absorbed into the Roman Republic. These confrontations with Carthage not only expanded Rome's territories but also changed the Republic. The influx of wealth, the exposure to different cultures, and the military evolution all played parts in shaping Rome's trajectory towards empire. The conclusion of the Punic Wars left Rome as the dominant power in the Western Mediterranean, its eyes now turning to the rich and ancient lands of the Eastern Mediterranean. Influence of Hellenistic kingdoms and expansion eastward. The allure of the East wasn't new to Rome. The richness of its cultures, the wisdom of its scholars, and the wealth of its cities were stories told and retold in the corridors of the Roman Senate. However, after the subjugation of Carthage, Rome found itself in a stronger position to engage with the Hellenistic kingdoms that had risen from the remnants of Alexander the Great's vast empire. Macedonia, once the heart of Alexander's domain, posed the first challenge. The Macedonian kings, seeing an opportunity, sometimes supported Rome's enemies, drawing the ire of the burgeoning republic. The Macedonian Wars, four in total spanning from 214 BCE to 148 BCE, pitted Rome against the Macedonian phalanx. It was a clash not just of armies but of ideologies and ways of war. By the end of these wars, the might of the Macedonian kingdom was dismantled, and its territories were integrated into the Roman provinces. The Seleucid Empire, another fragment of Alexander's legacy, stretched from Anatolia to the Indus River Valley at its zenith. Its encounters with Rome, particularly during the Roman-Seleucid War, 192 to 188 BCE, saw the empire lose crucial territories in Anatolia. The Battle of Magnesia, where the Romans faced war elephants and a diverse array of eastern troops, was decisive. Rome's victory cemented its dominance in Anatolia and reduced the Seleucid Empire to a secondary power. But it was in Greece where Rome's encounters were the most profound. The Achaean League, a confederation of Greek city-states, clashed with Rome in the Achaean War, 146 BCE. The end was brutal for the Greeks. Corinth, one of the major Greek city-states, was destroyed by the Romans as a demonstration of power and control. Yet, even as Rome subdued Greece militarily, it was captivated by Hellenistic culture. Greek philosophy, art, and literature began to flood into Rome, enriching Roman life and thought. The absorption of the Hellenistic East into the Roman sphere was a two-way street. While Rome expanded its boundaries, Hellenistic culture and wisdom expanded Rome's intellectual horizons. It was a merger of the practical administrative prowess of Rome with the philosophical depth of the Greeks. In this manner, by the time the last century BCE dawned, the Roman Republic's reach had extended into vast territories, from the sun-baked sands of northern Africa to the cultured cities of the eastern Mediterranean. Yet, this rapid expansion wasn't without its costs, as the Republic would soon discover. Rome's growing ambitions and conflicts in the West. While the Eastern Mediterranean and its Hellenistic legacy shaped the Roman Republic's intellectual and cultural horizons, the West had its own tales of conquest and ambition. These tales weren't woven with threads of philosophy and art. Instead, they were spun from raw ambition, hard-fought battles, and the allure of untapped resources. Hispania, modern-day Spain and Portugal, beckoned with its vast mineral wealth. Silver mines in places like the Sierra Morena Mountains promised to fill Roman coffers, fueling further military campaigns and political ambitions. Yet, these lands weren't just waiting for the taking. The Celtiberians, proud and fierce tribes of the Iberian Peninsula, resisted Roman encroachment fiercely. The numerous wars and skirmishes in Hispania, collectively known as the Celtiberian Wars, 181 to 133 BCE, tested Rome's military and diplomatic prowess. While they eventually managed to bring most of Hispania under their control, it came at a high cost. These campaigns also gave rise to notable Roman figures, such as Scipio Africanus, who would later play pivotal roles in Rome's history. Up in the Alpine regions, another threat and opportunity emerged. The tribes there, like the Helvetii, posed challenges to Roman expansion. Yet, it wasn't just about subduing these tribes, the Alps themselves were a barrier. They separated the Italian peninsula from the vast European lands to the north. The Republic realized the strategic significance of controlling these mountain passes and regions. Wars and alliances in this region not only secured Rome's northern borders but also paved the way for future incursions into Gaul and beyond. And speaking of Gaul, modern-day France and parts of Belgium, Switzerland, and Germany, it wasn't long before Rome's gaze turned there. Rich in resources and strategically placed, Gaul was a mosaic of tribes and cultures. While full-scale Roman expeditions into Gaul would peak during Julius Caesar's time, the foundation for those campaigns was being laid during the period of the Republic. The islands of the western Mediterranean, Corsica, Sardinia, and Sicily, were also vital. They acted as stepping stones for naval and trade routes, and their possession helped Rome assert dominance in the Mediterranean. These western conquests and campaigns added new provinces to the Roman Republic and brought in a vast influx of wealth and resources. However, they also introduced Rome to various cultures and peoples, setting the stage for the complexities of governance and integration. As much as the Republic grew in size and influence, the challenges of managing such diverse territories also grew. It was becoming evident that the old ways of the Roman Republic might not be sufficient for this vast, sprawling entity it was becoming. Consequences of expansion, rewards and challenges. As Rome's territory stretched beyond the Italian peninsula, the riches and resources pouring into the Republic were staggering. Gold, silver, grain, and slaves entered the Roman economy at unprecedented rates. New provinces meant not just new lands, but also access to regional goods, luxuries, and trade networks. Rome was fast emerging as the economic powerhouse of the Mediterranean, a fact not lost on its rulers or its rivals. However, the rewards of expansion weren't without their challenges. Here are some key consequences of Rome's territorial growth. Economic disparity. While Rome's coffers swelled, so did the pockets of the wealthy elite. This influx of wealth exacerbated the divide between the rich patricians and the poorer plebeians. Vast estates, or latifundia, managed by slave labor, became common, pushing smaller farmers off their lands. The growing chasm between the haves and the have-nots sowed seeds of social unrest. Slavery surge. The number of slaves in Rome surged dramatically. Captured from wars and conquests, they became the backbone of the Roman economy, working in mines, fields, homes, and even as gladiators. Their sheer numbers and the often harsh conditions they endured became potential flashpoints. The Servile Wars, especially Spartacus's revolt in 73 to 71 BCE, highlighted the dangers of such a heavy dependence on enslaved populations. Military challenges. As territories expanded, so did the length of the Roman frontiers. Defending these vast borders required significant military commitments. Moreover, as soldiers were away on long campaigns, they often returned to find their lands taken or in ruins. This created discontent among the legions, pushing many soldiers to be more loyal to their generals than to the Roman state. The likes of Marius and Sulla, and later Pompey and Caesar, capitalized on this shift in loyalty, with profound implications for the Republic. Cultural assimilation and resistance. Conquering diverse lands meant Rome was now responsible for governing a myriad of cultures and peoples. While many adopted Roman ways, a process called Romanization, not all did so willingly. Some resisted, either overtly or covertly, maintaining their traditions and occasionally rebelling against Roman rule. This dynamic played out differently across provinces but was a constant challenge. Political strains. The Senate and traditional political structures of the Republic were ill-equipped to manage the demands of a sprawling empire. Governance of the provinces, the distribution of wealth from conquests, and dealing with influential military generals all became contentious issues. These tensions contributed to the decline of the traditional republican system and set the stage for autocratic rule. In essence, Rome's success in expansion was a double-edged sword. The very conquests that elevated Rome to unprecedented heights also introduced challenges that would test the foundations of the Roman Republic. As territories grew, the Republic's traditional systems and structures began to show their age, paving the way for a new form of governance to emerge. The question was, what would this new system look like, and who would lead it? Rome's relations with neighboring civilizations. With expansion came encounters with various neighboring civilizations, each with its own history, culture, and ambitions. Rome's relations with these entities were not uniform, they shifted based on politics, economics, and military considerations. Here's a snapshot of Rome's interactions with some prominent neighbors. Carthage, undoubtedly one of the most formidable adversaries of early Rome, Carthage was a maritime power with a vast trading network. Their conflicts, known as the Punic Wars, spanned over a century. Rome and Carthage vied for dominance, culminating in the complete destruction of Carthage after the Third Punic War. The rivalry was both a testament to Rome's tenacity and a cautionary tale about the price of imperial competition. Greeks and the Hellenistic kingdoms, Rome's relations with the Greek world were multifaceted. Initially inspired and deeply influenced by Greek culture, Rome eventually turned conqueror. Wars with the Hellenistic kingdoms, remnants of Alexander the Great's empire, such as the Macedonian Wars, brought vast territories under Roman control. Yet, even as Rome dominated politically, Greek culture permeated Roman life, philosophy, and art. Gauls, north of the Italian peninsula, the Gauls were a collection of tribes with a warrior tradition. The Gallic Wars, led by Julius Caesar, brought this vast region under Roman rule. Caesar's campaigns in Gaul not only expanded Rome's territories but also elevated his political stature, setting the stage for his eventual ascent to power. Parthians, east of Roman territories lay the Parthian Empire. The two powers clashed intermittently, with the Euphrates River often serving as a boundary. Encounters like the Battle of Carrhae, where the Parthians dealt a crushing defeat to the Romans, highlighted the challenges Rome faced in expanding eastward. Iberians and Celtiberians, the Iberian Peninsula was home to a mix of cultures. As Rome ventured west, they encountered fierce resistance from local tribes. Over time, through a combination of warfare and diplomacy, Rome integrated these regions, with cities like Hispania becoming vital parts of the Roman world. Illyrians, located along the Adriatic coast, the Illyrians were known for their piracy and seafaring skills. Rome's engagements with them were driven by the need to secure trade routes and protect its territories. Over time, Rome's influence transformed the Illyrian coast into a hub of trade and culture. These encounters were not just about territorial gains, they were a crucible in which the Roman identity was forged and redefined. From adversaries, Rome learned new military tactics, from allies they absorbed cultural nuances, and from conquered people, they integrated myriad traditions into the ever-evolving tapestry of the Roman world. Yet, with each new relationship, the balancing act became more intricate, demanding astute political, military, and diplomatic acumen. It was a dance of power, with Rome often leading, but always mindful of the steps of its partners. Part 7. Emergence of Christianity during the Roman Kingdom era. Background: Judaism and the prophetic tradition. Long before the cross adorned the domes of basilicas, or the fish symbol became synonymous with faith, the Roman landscape was a mosaic of diverse cultures and religions. And in a distant corner of the empire, a resilient tradition persisted: Judaism. Judaism in the Roman Kingdom era was primarily concentrated in Judea, a province in the eastern part of the empire. The Jewish people were distinct, adhering to monotheistic beliefs in a polytheistic world. Their sacred scriptures, now known as the Old Testament, told stories of their covenant with a single God, Yahweh, and the guidance they received through their prophets. Prophets in Jewish tradition were not mere fortune-tellers. They were messengers, chosen by God to communicate His will, calling for both spiritual revival and societal change. Figures like Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel stood against corruption and injustice, painting visions of a better future. Some even hinted at the coming of a Messiah, a savior for the people. Over time, various powers, including the Romans, controlled Judea. Each conqueror brought its own challenges, but the Jewish spirit remained unbroken. Synagogues became centers for teaching and learning, ensuring the continuation of Jewish customs, traditions, and most importantly, their faith. The Jewish people's unwavering commitment to their beliefs, coupled with the prophetic traditions that spoke of a Messiah, laid the groundwork for what would eventually evolve into Christianity. The teachings of one man from Nazareth would soon resonate with countless individuals, and ultimately, play a monumental role in the course of Roman history. The arrival of Jesus and the birth of Christianity. In the midst of this deeply entrenched Jewish tradition, in a small town called Bethlehem, Jesus of Nazareth was born. While the exact date remains a topic of debate, his influence on history is undeniable. Often referred to as Jesus Christ, he grew up in a world under Roman rule, a world filled with a mixture of hope, despair, and anticipation. Jesus began his ministry around the age of 30. Traveling through towns and villages, he taught about love, compassion, and a kingdom not of this world. His parables, or short illustrative stories, conveyed deep moral lessons. The Sermon on the Mount, where he preached the Beatitudes, remains one of his most revered teachings. But Jesus wasn't just a teacher. Reports of him performing miracles, such as healing the sick, raising the dead, and turning water into wine, spread like wildfire. These acts, combined with his radical teachings, attracted followers and alarmed both the local Jewish authorities and Roman officials. The central tenet of Jesus' teachings was the idea of personal salvation through faith and repentance. He challenged the rigid religious norms of the day, emphasizing a direct relationship with God and advocating for the spirit rather than the letter of the law. Jesus' increasing popularity posed a threat to the established order. The Jewish leaders, fearing the loss of their own influence and a potential backlash from the Roman authorities, conspired against him. This culminated in his crucifixion, a common Roman method of execution reserved for criminals and rebels. However, the story didn't end with his death. Followers claimed that Jesus rose from the dead 3 days later, an event Christians celebrate as the resurrection. This miraculous event became the cornerstone of Christian belief, the idea that through Jesus' sacrifice, humanity can be redeemed. The teachings and life of Jesus were later chronicled by his disciples in the Gospels. These writings, along with other letters and texts, would become the New Testament, complementing the Old Testament and forming the Christian Bible. As the seeds of a new religion took root, they began to spread, first among the Jewish communities and then, gradually, beyond. The ripples from the life of a carpenter from Nazareth would soon reach the heart of Rome, forever changing the empire's spiritual landscape. The spread of Christianity within the Roman Empire. Following Jesus' death, his disciples, emboldened by their firm belief in his resurrection, began to actively spread his teachings. The apostles, as they came to be known, traveled throughout the Roman Empire, sowing the seeds of this new faith. Prominent among these apostles was Saul of Tarsus, later known as Paul. Originally a fierce persecutor of Christians, a transformative experience on the road to Damascus changed him into one of Christianity's most passionate proponents. Paul's epistles, or letters, to various communities are a significant portion of the New Testament. These letters address theological questions, moral guidance, and community issues. They played a pivotal role in shaping early Christian doctrine and practices. Paul's missionary journeys took him to key cities like Ephesus, Corinth, and Thessalonica. Importantly, he also reached Rome, the heart of the empire. His efforts, along with those of other apostles, ensured that Christianity started to gain followers among both Jews and non-Jews. This wider appeal was in part due to the inclusive nature of Christian teachings, which stressed that salvation was available to all, irrespective of ethnicity or social status. As Christianity spread, it often faced resistance and was sometimes met with violent persecution. Christians were occasionally used as scapegoats for societal or natural problems. They faced accusations of atheism for not participating in state-sanctioned religious activities and were often misrepresented in popular Roman discourse. However, during times of relative peace, the faith continued to grow, often organically, through networks of trade, family connections, and urban communities. Early Christians met in homes or underground catacombs, their secretive gatherings fueling further suspicion among some Romans. Yet, by the 3rd century, Christianity was no longer an obscure Jewish sect but a recognizable religious movement within the Roman Empire. It had developed its own rituals, leadership structures, and places of worship. The very empire that had once executed its founder was now home to a rapidly growing number of his followers. This growth wasn't uniform. While some regions had vibrant Christian communities, others remained largely untouched by its teachings. But the tides were shifting. Little did the world know, a Roman emperor would soon convert to Christianity, paving the way for it to become the dominant religion of the empire. Constantine and the transformation of Christianity. Late into the 3rd century and early into the 4th, the Roman Empire faced a series of crises. From external invasions to internal strife, the empire seemed on the brink of collapse. Amidst this turbulence, a new figure rose to power, promising to unite and stabilize the vast territories, Constantine the Great. Constantine's rise to power was a tale of ambition, strategy, and, as some would believe, divine intervention. As the story goes, on the eve of the Battle of the Milvian Bridge in 312 AD, Constantine had a vision. In this vision, he saw the Christian symbol, the Chi-Rho, with the message, "In this sign, you will conquer." Trusting the vision, he had his soldiers paint the symbol on their shields. The following day, he achieved a decisive victory, attributing his success to the Christian God. Following this, in 313 AD, Constantine, along with his co-emperor Licinius, issued the Edict of Milan. This proclamation granted religious tolerance to Christians, allowing them to practice their faith openly without fear of persecution. It was a pivotal moment, signaling a reversal of centuries of official Roman hostility towards Christianity. But Constantine's relationship with Christianity went beyond mere tolerance. Though his own conversion to the faith is a matter of debate among historians, his actions undeniably favored the Christian community. He offered them tax breaks, gifted them prominent buildings in Rome for worship, and even took an active role in church matters. One of Constantine's most significant contributions was convening the First Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. This gathering of Christian bishops aimed to address and resolve various theological disputes that had arisen, most notably the Arian controversy regarding the nature of Jesus Christ's divinity. The council produced the Nicene Creed, a statement of Christian faith still recited in many Christian denominations today. While Constantine's reign marked a profound transformation in the Roman Empire's relationship with Christianity, it would be wrong to view it as a sudden switch from paganism to Christianity. Instead, it was a transitional period. Many traditional Roman religious practices continued, and Constantine himself retained the title Pontifex Maximus, the chief priest of the Roman religion. But the momentum was now undeniably with Christianity. By the end of the 4th century, under Emperor Theodosius I, Christianity would become the official state religion, and other religious practices would be increasingly marginalized. The faith that began with a humble carpenter from Nazareth had, within a few centuries, ascended to the highest echelons of power in the ancient world. Decline of paganism and the ascendancy of Christianity. The wheel of history continued to turn, and as the 4th century AD wore on, the power dynamics between traditional Roman religions and Christianity underwent a seismic shift. The rise of Christianity wasn't just a religious transformation, it was a cultural and social revolution that would indelibly alter the trajectory of the Western world. Emperors following Constantine continued to patronize Christianity, bolstering its status within the empire. By the time Theodosius I ascended to the throne in 379 AD, the environment was ripe for even more radical changes. Theodosius, a fervent Christian, took measures that previous emperors hadn't dared. In 391 AD, he issued decrees that effectively closed pagan temples, restricted pagan sacrifices, and disbanded the Vestal Virgins, an ancient order of priestesses. Yet, this wasn't a tale of brute force suppressing a passive populace. In many parts of the empire, people were embracing Christianity willingly. The message of hope, redemption, and eternal life resonated deeply, particularly in an era fraught with uncertainties. Communities of believers, or ecclesiae, sprouted throughout the empire, acting as centers for spiritual nourishment, charity, and education. However, the decline of paganism wasn't uniform. In some regions, particularly in the rural areas or the hinterlands of the empire, the term pagan derives from the Latin paganus, meaning country dweller. Old beliefs persisted longer. And not all pagans went quietly into the annals of history. Philosophers, scholars, and traditionalists voiced their concerns, dismayed at the loss of classical knowledge, rituals, and art forms. Figures like the philosopher Hypatia of Alexandria, who was tragically murdered by a Christian mob, stand as reminders of the tensions of this transformative era. Yet, as the 5th century dawned, the writing was on the wall for traditional Roman religions. Christianity had moved from being a persecuted sect to the dominant faith of the empire. Its monastic traditions were preserving knowledge, its bishops wielding political power, and its doctrines shaping societal values. One cannot help but marvel at the journey of Christianity during the Roman era. A movement that began in the humblest of settings in the distant province of Judea had, within a few centuries, reshaped the spiritual, cultural, and political landscape of the most powerful empire the world had ever seen. The institutionalization of Christianity and the development of the papacy. As Christianity spread like wildfire across the Roman Empire, a foundational structure began to emerge. While the faith's principles were paramount, the logistics of managing such an expansive religious body became increasingly crucial. Herein arose the framework of the Christian Church as an institution, and central to this evolving structure was the emergence of the papacy. Rome, the very heart of the empire, became the focal point for the burgeoning Christian community. Peter, one of Jesus' original apostles, is traditionally believed to have been the first bishop of Rome. As the faith grew, his successors, the bishops of Rome, began to be seen as having a unique authority due to their direct apostolic lineage. This authority was not merely symbolic, it carried weight and influence. By the end of the 4th century, the Bishop of Rome was increasingly referred to as the Pope, from the Latin papa, meaning father. This title, while originally a term of endearment, evolved into a designation of authority. But the consolidation of power wasn't without friction. Differences in theology, tradition, and cultural practices led to tensions between the eastern and western parts of the empire. However, the Western Roman Empire was in decline, and as chaos enveloped its vast territories, the papacy took on an even more significant role. The Pope became not only a religious leader but also a political figure, negotiating with barbarian kings, safeguarding Rome, and influencing the fate of entire regions. Pope Leo I's interaction with Attila the Hun in 452 AD, persuading him to turn back and not invade Italy, stands as a testament to the emerging political might of the papacy. Parallelly, the theological and liturgical frameworks of the Church were also solidifying. Councils were convened, bringing together bishops from far and wide to discuss and decide on matters of doctrine. The most famous of these was the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, which addressed the nature of Jesus' divinity and formulated the Nicene Creed, a statement of Christian belief still recited in many churches today. The papacy's role continued to evolve, setting the stage for the Middle Ages when the Pope would not just be a religious leader but a central figure in the geopolitical landscape of Europe. From the catacombs of early Christian Rome to the grandeur of St. Peter's Basilica, the journey of the papacy and the Christian Church is a testament to the faith's adaptability and resilience amidst the tides of history. Constantine and the Edict of Milan. The rise of Christianity within the Roman Empire is inextricably linked to the actions of a single, pivotal figure, Constantine the Great. Born into the complex world of Roman power politics, Constantine would become the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity, setting the stage for the faith's ascendancy within the empire. Constantine's early life was marked by political intrigue and military campaigns. He wasn't initially a Christian. In fact, for much of his early reign, he paid homage to the traditional Roman gods. However, in the midst of a crucial battle for control of the Western Roman Empire, a transformative event occurred. On the eve of the Battle of the Milvian Bridge in 312 AD, Constantine had a vision. He saw a cross of light in the sky, accompanied by the words, "In this sign, you will conquer." Trusting this vision, he had his soldiers mark their shields with the Christian symbol, the Chiro. The next day, they emerged victorious. The Battle of the Milvian Bridge wasn't just a military turning point, it was a religious one. After this victory, Constantine became a patron of Christianity. While it's debated when he was formally baptized, some sources claim it was on his deathbed. There's no doubt about the monumental shift in his policies and attitude towards Christians. In 313 AD, along with his co-emperor Licinius, Constantine issued the Edict of Milan. This wasn't a declaration of Christianity as the state religion that would come later under Theodosius I, but a proclamation of religious tolerance. The edict effectively decriminalized Christian worship, allowing Christians to practice their faith openly without fear of persecution. The edict also mandated the return of confiscated property to Christian communities. It was a breath of fresh air after years of sporadic but brutal persecutions under emperors like Diocletian. Constantine's endorsement of Christianity reshaped the empire's religious landscape. He granted the Christian Church many privileges, including tax exemptions, and was deeply involved in theological debates, even convening the First Council of Nicaea to address internal disputes within the faith. His establishment of the new Roman capital, Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, which he deemed New Rome, further solidified Christianity's place in the empire. This city, purposefully erected without the traditional pagan temples, would go on to become a bastion of Christian thought and culture for over a millennium. Constantine's reign marked the transition of Christianity from a marginalized sect to a dominant force in Roman society. Through his influence, the faith found its place at the heart of the empire, paving the way for its role in shaping the course of Western history. Part 8. Summary of Augustus' reign that marked a transition from kingdom to empire. Augustus, the man behind the title. Augustus, initially known as Gaius Octavius Thursdayianus, was more than just a name or a title in the annals of history. He was the very embodiment of Rome's transformation. Born in 63 BCE to Asia and Gaius Octavius, he belonged to a reputable family, with Julius Caesar, one of Rome's most formidable leaders, being his maternal great-uncle. But the relationship went beyond mere blood ties. Upon Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE, a young Octavian, as he was then called, was named as the chief heir in Caesar's will. This unexpected inheritance put him in the limelight almost overnight, turning a relatively unknown youth into a central political figure. The Roman populace, fondly remembering Caesar, looked curiously upon Octavian, expecting qualities reminiscent of the great leader. His early life was marked with typical Roman education, where Octavian was well-versed in topics like rhetoric and military strategy. His formative years, however, were spent in Apollonia, where he honed his military skills, preparing for the challenges ahead. And challenges were aplenty. Returning to Rome post-Caesar's death, he found a city in chaos, with power struggles threatening the very core of Roman society. Yet, it was not Octavian's prowess in battle or his inherited position that made him Augustus. It was his astuteness, diplomatic skills, and an ability to sway the masses and Senate alike. Throughout his life, he displayed an uncanny knack for recognizing potential allies and threats, weaving a tapestry of allegiances that ultimately culminated in him being the sole ruler of Rome. The title Augustus was not just a name, it was a symbol. In 27 BCE, the Senate conferred upon him the title, which translates to the Revered One. It was a title befitting a man who had not just restored peace to a troubled Rome but had also set it on a path to becoming the greatest empire the world had ever seen. Upon taking the mantle of leadership, Augustus was faced with the Herculean task of uniting a fractured Rome. His answer to this challenge was the initiation of the Pax Romana, a period of unparalleled peace and stability that spanned 2 centuries, beginning with his reign. This era, often hailed as the Golden Age of the Roman Empire, saw an explosion in artistic, architectural, and cultural endeavors. Gone were the days of frequent civil wars and internecine strife. Instead, Rome became a beacon of prosperity, a magnet for talents from across its vast territories. But achieving this peace wasn't straightforward. It required shrewd politics and meticulous planning. Augustus achieved this through a mix of generous policies towards his erstwhile enemies, reducing the chances of rebellion, and establishing a professional army loyal only to him. This army, paid by the state's treasury, had its legions stationed at the empire's frontiers, ensuring that threats were dealt with before they could penetrate the heart of Rome. A significant hallmark of the Pax Romana was the extensive network of Roman roads. These roads, masterpieces of ancient engineering, didn't just serve military purposes. They connected cities, facilitated trade, and played a pivotal role in assimilating the various cultures within the empire. It was this interconnectedness that allowed ideas, goods, and people to move freely, knitting together a vast expanse into a cohesive whole. Beyond infrastructural projects, Augustus was keen on promoting moral values within the Roman society. He initiated laws that encouraged marriage, penalized adultery, and rewarded those with large families. He saw these as essential tools in promoting stability and ensuring a steady supply of future Roman citizens. The Pax Romana wasn't just about Rome's internal peace. It was a statement to the world, a demonstration of Rome's ability to govern, to bring together diverse cultures under a single umbrella, and to ensure that the vast territories from Spain to the Middle East could coexist harmoniously. And at the heart of this epic was Augustus, the revered architect of Rome's Golden Age. A strong bureaucracy and Rome's first emperor. Augustus was not merely content to be seen as a strong military leader. He recognized the importance of a strong administrative and bureaucratic system to govern the vast Roman territories. He took steps to streamline the Roman government, ensuring that it was both effective and representative. Rome's provinces were overseen by governors, many chosen directly by Augustus. This system was put in place to reduce corruption and ensure the provinces were governed fairly. Augustus understood that the loyalty of these provinces was essential for the stability of Rome. A governor's power, therefore, was checked to ensure they did not grow too powerful or abuse their position. Taxation too underwent reforms. Augustus recognized that a consistent and fair tax system was crucial for the empire's finances. He commissioned a census, not just in Rome but across the empire, to ensure a fair distribution of taxes. This move was unprecedented and showcased his vision for a unified and organized Roman state. Moreover, the judicial system was revamped. Augustus set up special courts for specific crimes, ensuring a faster and more efficient judicial process. The age-old Roman laws were also codified and streamlined during his reign, ensuring that justice was meted out uniformly across the empire. While the Senate still existed and operated during his reign, its power was significantly reduced. Augustus cleverly navigated the political landscape, consolidating power without completely sidelining the Senate. He respected Roman traditions and presented himself not as a monarch but as princeps or the first citizen. This shrewd positioning enabled him to accumulate vast powers without appearing to undermine the republic's values. The title Augustus itself was a masterstroke of branding. It conveyed a sense of divine favor and authority without the overt trappings of kingship. It set a precedent for future rulers and became synonymous with the office of the emperor. But behind all these reforms and titles, what truly stood out was his understanding of governance. Augustus knew that for Rome to thrive, it had to be more than just a military power. It had to be an administrative marvel, a beacon of justice, and above all, it needed the faith and trust of its citizens. Through his reforms, he laid the foundation for an empire that would endure for centuries, standing as a testament to his vision and leadership. Public works and cultural renaissance. Augustus wasn't just a political and military genius, he was a patron of arts and culture, understanding the value of public works in immortalizing his legacy and fostering a sense of Roman identity. Under his reign, Rome saw a surge in construction, the effects of which continue to captivate visitors to the Eternal City even today. The old saying went, Rome wasn't built in a day, but under Augustus, it felt almost as though it was. Buildings, roads, and aqueducts sprang up across the city and its vast territories. One of his most quoted sayings was that he found Rome a city of bricks and left it a city of marble. Indeed, he sponsored a range of projects that transformed Rome into a metropolis befitting its status as the heart of a vast empire. The Forum of Augustus, with its imposing Temple of Mars altar, stood as a testament to his military victories and the divine favor he claimed to have. This forum was more than just a space for public gatherings, it was a symbol of the new Rome that Augustus envisioned, grand, orderly, and awe-inspiring. But it wasn't just monumental constructions. Augustus paid attention to the city's infrastructure as well. Roads were repaired and expanded, ensuring smoother connectivity within the empire. The famed Roman aqueducts were either built or refurbished under his supervision, providing the city with fresh water, a vital component for its sustenance and growth. Augustus also deeply appreciated the soft power of art and culture. He patronized poets like Virgil, Horace, and Ovid, whose works not only glorified the Augustan age but also cemented Latin literature's reputation. These poets were the celebrities of their time, and their tales of heroes, gods, and Rome's greatness echoed the sentiments of Augustus's reign. Theater and performances too were encouraged. Plays were regularly organized, and artistic endeavors were seen as integral to Roman life. Augustus understood that a thriving cultural scene was essential not just for leisure but for fostering a shared sense of Roman identity and pride. By intertwining politics, military prowess, and cultural brilliance, Augustus crafted an image of Rome that was both grand and relatable. He showed that while Rome was an empire with unmatched power, it was also a hub of creativity, innovation, and culture, a legacy that continues to inspire and fascinate to this day. Augustus' political institutions and centralization of power. One cannot discuss Augustus without acknowledging the masterful ways he maneuvered through Rome's intricate political landscape. His political acumen ensured a stability that hadn't been seen in Rome for decades, reshaping its governance structure in profound ways. Augustus, while upholding the semblance of the Republic, gradually concentrated power in his own hands. He deftly navigated between the Senate and the Roman populace, ensuring that both entities felt acknowledged and empowered, all while discreetly diminishing their actual influence over key decisions. His titles, for instance, were chosen with precision. He declined the title of rex or king, a term that had become distasteful to Romans given their history with monarchy. Instead, he accepted the honorific princeps civitatis, translating to the first citizen of the state. This seemingly modest title was juxtaposed against the formidable power he held as imperator, a military title from which the term emperor is derived. Moreover, the Senate bestowed upon him the revered title Augustus, signifying his sacred and majestic status. Another pivotal institution he established was the Praetorian Guard, an elite unit tasked with guarding the emperor. Initially seen as a protective force, its influence grew over the years, at times even playing a role in deciding the fate of emperors. The provinces too experienced Augustus's touch. He separated them into senatorial and imperial provinces. While the former were relatively peaceful and left to the Senate's management, the latter, often on the empire's fringes and more prone to rebellions or external threats, were directly under the emperor's control. This not only allowed him to keep a close watch on the empire's vast territories but also ensured that the legions stationed there remained loyal to him. The financial system, vital for the empire's sustenance, saw reforms under Augustus. He initiated a census, streamlining tax collection and ensuring a more accurate account of the empire's population and wealth. Furthermore, Augustus instituted a system of moral reforms. Drawing from his vision of restoring Rome to its former glory, he promoted values of family, piety, and morality, even going to lengths like penalizing adultery and rewarding those who had 3 or more children. These transformations, while ensuring the stability and growth of the empire, also meant that the power was shifting. The Senate, once the heart of Roman politics, saw its influence diminish, while the emperor's role grew paramount. In all his decisions, Augustus displayed a keen understanding of balance. He recognized the need to consolidate power but did so without entirely alienating the established institutions of the Roman Republic. The result was a new political system, with the emperor at its helm, ensuring Rome's stability and dominance for centuries to come. Augustus' cultivation of a personal image and propaganda. In a world devoid of social media and mass communication tools as we know them, Augustus wielded the power of image and propaganda with unmatched finesse. Understanding the essence of public perception, he harnessed various mediums to craft a larger-than-life persona that resonated with both the elite and the common Roman. Sculptures and coins featuring Augustus were widespread. Unlike his adoptive father Julius Caesar, Augustus didn't showcase himself as a godlike figure but as a youthful, dynamic leader. His statues often depicted him with an ageless visage, reinforcing the idea of his timeless leadership. The Prima Porta statue, for instance, shows a young, strong Augustus, even though it was sculpted when he was well into his 70s. With his arm outstretched, he appears to be addressing his troops or the Roman populace, an embodiment of a leader in action. Augustus also recognized the power of written word. He commissioned works that glorified his reign and highlighted the Pax Romana, a time of relative peace and stability under his rule. The poet Virgil's Aeneid stands out, narrating the story of Aeneas, a Trojan hero and an ancestor of Rome's founders. Through this epic, Augustus drew parallels between his leadership and the legendary heroes, suggesting that Rome was entering a new golden age under his guidance. Another significant work from this period is the Residential Gesti Divi Augusti, or The Deeds of the Divine Augustus. It's essentially an autobiography, inscribed on monumental tablets, where Augustus recounts his achievements. It served as a testament to his leadership, detailing his military victories, administrative reforms, and public works, showcasing him as a benevolent and effective leader. But beyond sculptures, coins, and texts, Augustus utilized grand architectural projects to imprint his legacy on Rome. The saying, Roma Renovatio, or renewal of Rome, is attributed to him. He once claimed, "I found Rome a city of bricks and left it a city of marble." This wasn't mere hyperbole. Buildings like the Forum of Augustus, the Era Pacis, Altar of Peace, and the Grand Mausoleum of Augustus transformed the city's skyline, turning it into a visual testament of his reign's splendor. However, these efforts weren't just about vanity. In an era of shifting allegiances and the looming threat of internal conflict, shaping public perception was vital. By consistently reinforcing his image as Rome's protector, the bringer of peace, and a continuation of its legendary past, Augustus ensured his legacy was deeply entrenched in the Roman psyche, making his position and the subsequent Julio-Claudian dynasty more secure. The legacy and impact of Augustus on the Roman Empire. With the close of Augustus's reign, the trajectory of Rome had been irrevocably altered. It's essential to appreciate how his leadership laid the groundwork for centuries of Roman domination and how his decisions rippled through the annals of history. Firstly, Augustus's administrative reforms were monumental. The empire was vast, and governing such a sprawling territory was no small feat. Augustus initiated a census, reorganized the senatorial and equestrian orders, and established a postal system. He also split the provinces into senatorial and imperial provinces, with the latter being directly under the emperor's control, usually because they contained large troops. This separation not only eased management but also provided a safeguard against potential usurpers rising through the military ranks. Another significant aspect of his rule was the promotion of a moral agenda. Augustus believed that the empire's strength was directly linked to the moral fiber of its people. He tried to revive traditional Roman religious festivals and customs, hoping to anchor the ever-expanding empire to its roots. He also implemented laws regulating personal behavior, marriage, and family, intending to foster what he saw as traditional Roman values. The Pax Romana, or the Roman peace, which began with Augustus, lasted for over 2 centuries. It was a period of relative peace and minimal expansion by military conquest in the Roman Empire's history. While there were still military campaigns, large-scale invasions were rare. This peace allowed for economic prosperity, advancements in arts and science, and the seamless exchange of ideas, fostering a rich cultural tapestry. Augustus also heavily invested in infrastructure. Roads, aqueducts, and buildings were constructed across the empire. These projects not only provided jobs and stimulated the economy but also ensured easier movement for Roman legions, thus strengthening the empire's hold on its territories. However, no leader is without criticism. Augustus's consolidation of power in the hands of one individual, while providing stability, also signaled the end of the Roman Republic. The Senate became more ceremonial, and the real power was concentrated with the emperor. In retrospect, Augustus's reign can be viewed as a double-edged sword. On one side, his leadership brought about stability, prosperity, and a flourishing of Roman culture. On the other, the democratic ideals of the Roman Republic faded, replaced by an imperial system that would, in time, see leaders of varying capability. Regardless of any critique, Augustus's footprint on history is colossal. His reign transformed Rome, laying down principles and systems that would dictate the rhythm of the empire for generations. His shadow, vast and influential, stretches far beyond his mortal life, reminding us of a time when Rome, under his guidance, truly epitomized the phrase, caput mundi, the capital of the world. Part 9. Rome's Ascendancy, from City-State to Mediterranean Powerhouse. The Humble Beginnings. In the sprawling landscape of ancient civilizations, there nestled among the hills beside the Tiber River, was Rome. But the Rome of antiquity was not the vast empire that often springs to mind, nor the colossal metropolis with grand temples and majestic aqueducts. No, in its earliest days, Rome was just another city-state, fighting for its place under the sun. Legend has it that Rome's founding traces back to 753 BCE, with the tale of Romulus and Remus. Two brothers, abandoned and then nurtured by a she-wolf, grew up to become leaders of their own bands of followers. But a rift between them culminated in Romulus slaying Remus and becoming the sole ruler of what would eventually be known as Rome, named after Romulus himself. Yet, history tells a more intricate story. Rome's beginnings were influenced by its neighbors, especially the Etruscans to the north. These influences were absorbed and adapted, shaping Rome's early architecture, religion, and even its politics. The earliest Romans weren't grand architects or mighty warriors, but shepherds and farmers. They lived in simple huts on the Palatine Hill. Over time, as more people were drawn to the area, these clusters of huts expanded, eventually merging with settlements on other hills nearby. This union of settlements laid the first stones for Rome's urban growth. But the journey from this modest starting point to becoming a dominant power in the region was neither easy nor predetermined. There were external threats from neighboring tribes, internal power struggles, and the ever-present challenge of ensuring food and resources for an increasing population. It's this Rome, one of humble beginnings and quiet resilience, that serves as the starting point. Before the grandeur of the empire, before the might of the legions, and before the intricate politics of the republic and empire, there was a small settlement with dreams and aspirations. Little did the world know then that this modest city-state would one day command territories spanning 3 continents, and its influence would echo through millennia. Rise of Roman dominance. As Rome grew in size and stature, it found itself in a volatile neighborhood. The Italian peninsula was home to a multitude of tribes and city-states, each vying for dominance. Rome had to navigate a path laden with warfare, alliances, betrayals, and political machinations. One of Rome's first significant military encounters was with its neighbor, the city-state of Veii. The two cities, separated by the Tiber River, were often in conflict over territory and resources. The Roman siege of Veii, which lasted a decade, ended in Rome's favor, marking one of its first significant territorial expansions. The Latin Wars, fought between Rome and several Latin cities, further expanded Rome's territories and influence in the region. Victories against the Samnites and the Pyrrhic War's subsequent successes against the Greek colonies in the south solidified Rome's control over the central and southern Italian peninsula. However, dominance in Italy was just the beginning. The Punic Wars, fought against the powerful city of Carthage, would stretch the might and resources of Rome. These series of conflicts spanning over a century tested Rome's resolve. The First Punic War saw naval battles, the second saw the genius of Hannibal crossing the Alps with elephants, and the third saw the utter destruction of Carthage. By the end, Rome had not only eliminated its most formidable rival but also gained territories in Sicily, Sardinia, and North Africa. During these conquests, Rome's military prowess became apparent. Their legions, structured, disciplined, and adaptable, became a force to be reckoned with. The Roman infantry, known for its discipline and the adaptability of its formations, was key to their success on the battlefield. The use of short swords, large shields, and body armor made them formidable in close combat. Rome's ability to assimilate conquered peoples into its structure, granting them certain rights and privileges, also ensured a steady stream of loyal soldiers. Yet, while warfare was a significant factor, diplomacy played an equally crucial role in Rome's rise. They formed colonies, established trade routes, and built infrastructure like roads and bridges, ensuring not just military dominance but also cultural and economic influence over the regions they controlled. Cultural and economic expansion. While the military might of Rome was a critical factor in its expansion, another subtle but influential force propelled its dominance: its culture and economy. These two intertwined threads wove together the fabric of a rapidly growing empire. Roman culture was a remarkable amalgamation. It borrowed and assimilated aspects from the various peoples and regions it came in contact with. Greek philosophy, art, and architecture deeply influenced Roman society. Roman gods paralleled the Greek pantheon, albeit with different names: Jupiter for Zeus, Mars for Ares, and so on. Theaters, public baths, and amphitheaters became common fixtures within Roman cities, promoting not only entertainment but also a sense of communal belonging. Latin, Rome's native tongue, became the lingua franca of the realm. It spread throughout the territories, fostering a shared sense of identity. This linguistic unity would later pave the way for the spread of literature, legal codes, and scientific knowledge. Beyond culture, the economy played a pivotal role in consolidating Rome's grip on its territories. The vast network of Roman roads, the famous via, facilitated trade, transport, and communication. These roads stretched from Britain in the north to Egypt in the south, making the movement of goods more efficient than ever before. Roman currency, the denarius, was introduced and became widely accepted across regions. This standardized currency system simplified trade and taxation, acting as a catalyst for economic growth. Along with this, the concept of Roman citizenship was a masterstroke. It was not limited to just those born in Rome but was extended to many conquered peoples, giving them a stake in the empire's prosperity. This ensured loyalty and a sense of belonging, tying them economically and culturally to Rome's destiny. Agriculture was the backbone of the Roman economy. Fertile lands, especially in regions like Egypt, ensured a steady supply of grain. This abundance of food supported the growing population of the city of Rome, which swelled to 1 million inhabitants at its height. Yet, Rome was not just about commerce and crops. The city became a hub for artisans, scholars, and merchants. The bustling markets of Rome, filled with spices from the East, silks from China, and precious metals from Spain, showcased the vastness and diversity of the empire. In essence, Rome's cultural and economic strategies were as crucial as its legions in casting its vast net over the Mediterranean world. Challenges and resilience. Every great empire faces its set of challenges, and Rome was no exception. As its territories grew, so did the complexity of governing such a vast expanse. The sheer scale brought with it issues of communication, governance, and cultural integration. Administratively, the empire was divided into provinces, each overseen by a governor appointed by Rome. While this centralized system had its merits, it also opened doors to corruption, power struggles, and mismanagement. Some governors, far from the watchful eyes of Rome, acted more like kings than administrators, leading to regional disparities and discontent. With growth came the challenge of defense. The longer the borders, the harder they were to guard. Rome had to defend its territories against external threats, from barbarian invasions in the north to the Parthian Empire in the east. The cost of maintaining a vast standing army was colossal, straining the empire's resources. Moreover, the cultural melting pot that was the Roman Empire occasionally boiled over. Different regions, with their distinct traditions, languages, and beliefs, were not always easy to assimilate. Religious tensions, especially with the rise of Christianity, posed challenges to the traditional Roman pagan system. The refusal of Christians to worship the emperor as a god led to sporadic persecutions, further deepening divisions. Yet, despite these obstacles, Rome displayed an astonishing resilience. Its legal system, the famed Roman law, introduced principles of justice and governance that are echoed in legal systems worldwide today. Infrastructure projects, from aqueducts to roads, facilitated communication, trade, and troop movement. The Pax Romana, a period of relative peace lasting several centuries, allowed for economic prosperity and cultural exchange. The Senate, while sometimes a hotbed of political intrigue, acted as a stabilizing force, providing a platform for debate and decision-making. Emperors like Hadrian fortified the empire's boundaries, creating a sense of security and unity. This combination of adaptability, strategic governance, and the sheer determination of its people made Rome a beacon of civilization, even when faced with internal strife and external threats. It's a testament to how Rome, while not invincible, was built to endure and adapt. The cultural legacy of Rome. Amidst Rome's military campaigns, administrative decisions, and political maneuvers, one of Rome's most enduring legacies was birthed: its culture. The vast territorial expanse of the Roman Empire meant that its cultural fabric was woven with threads from many different civilizations. Literature and the arts flourished during Rome's Golden Age. Poets like Virgil, Horace, and Ovid penned works that have become cornerstones of classical literature. Their writings provided not just entertainment but also shaped the Roman worldview, instilling values of honor, duty, and the age-old struggle between fate and free will. Architecture, another pillar of Roman culture, evolved as Rome grew. The construction of grand structures like the Colosseum, the Pantheon, and the aqueducts epitomized the Roman ethos of grandeur and practicality. These weren't just buildings, they were statements of power, engineering prowess, and an aspiration towards eternity. Education was vital in Roman society. The youth were trained in rhetoric, philosophy, and literature, molding them into the future leaders of the empire. The spread of Latin, the official language of Rome, further unified its vast territories and became the lingua franca of the Western world for centuries. Religion, too, played a pivotal role in daily Roman life. The pantheon of Roman gods and goddesses, each governing different aspects of life and nature, was venerated through festivals, rituals, and temples. As Rome expanded, it absorbed the gods and religious practices of other cultures, showcasing its adaptability and tolerance. Yet, even as traditional Roman paganism thrived, another faith was slowly gaining ground: Christianity. What began as a minor Jewish sect would, in a few centuries, become the state religion. The teachings of Jesus, his crucifixion, and the tireless work of apostles like Paul made Christianity appealing to many Romans, offering hope and salvation in an ever-changing world. Music, theater, and games occupied a central place in Roman recreational life. The theatrical plays drew from both comedy and tragedy, reflecting the gamut of human experiences. Gladiatorial combats, chariot races, and other public spectacles were more than just entertainment. They were a manifestation of Roman values of bravery, competition, and honor. Through these cultural avenues, Rome didn't just conquer territories, it also won hearts and minds. Its cultural artifacts, be they literary, architectural, or philosophical, continue to inspire and influence even today, making Rome's legacy truly immortal. The legacy of Roman law and governance. Another foundational pillar of Rome's vast influence lies in its legal system and governance model. The Roman ethos of structured administration and just governance still echoes in the legal and political systems of many modern nations. The Roman legal code, famously captured in the 12 Tables, was a pioneering effort in codifying laws. Before this, laws were largely unwritten, making judgments arbitrary and justice elusive. The 12 Tables changed that by offering a transparent and accessible legal framework for all Roman citizens. Although the laws themselves evolved over time, the belief in codified law as a cornerstone of civil society remained consistent. Roman law delved into various facets of society, from property rights, contractual obligations, and family law to torts and crimes. This comprehensive approach ensured that most aspects of daily life had legal clarity. The principle, innocent until proven guilty, finds its roots in Roman jurisprudence. Another notable aspect of Roman governance was its bureaucracy. While bureaucracy often bears a negative connotation today, in ancient Rome, it was a tool for effective administration. The empire's vast territories were divided into provinces, each overseen by a governor. These provinces were further divided into cities, each with its local governance structure. This hierarchical yet decentralized model ensured smoother governance across diverse regions. Roman citizenship was a prized possession. It wasn't just a marker of identity but conferred specific rights and privileges. Over time, Rome expanded its citizenship, breaking the shackles of ethnicity and birthplace. By granting citizenship to conquered peoples, Rome fostered loyalty and reduced dissent. Rome's Senate, though its power ebbed and flowed, stood as a testament to the Roman belief in representative governance. Senators, representing different factions and interests, debated and decided on matters of state. While not democratic in the modern sense, it was a significant move towards collective decision-making. The concept of checks and balances was embryonic in Roman governance. Different bodies and offices held distinct powers, ensuring that no single entity became overwhelmingly dominant. This separation of powers, though imperfect, was revolutionary for its time and has since become a foundational principle in many democratic systems. The legacy of Roman law and governance is perhaps most vividly seen in the concept of residential publica, from which the term republic derives. It signifies a state where affairs are the public's matter, laying the groundwork for modern democratic ideals. Today, legal scholars still study Roman law, and many legal terminologies, like subpoena or affidavit, owe their origins to Latin, Rome's language. This influence underscores Rome's indelible imprint on the fabric of global governance. The influence on language, culture, and infrastructure. If there's a silent herald of Rome's dominion, it's the Latin language. Even as the sounds of battle and conquest faded, Latin persisted, metamorphosing and diffusing into the languages spoken by millions today. The Romance languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, and Romanian, owe their genesis to Latin. Moreover, countless English words have Latin roots, underscoring the language's enduring influence. Culture, too, saw Rome as a formidable influencer. From architectural marvels like the Colosseum, aqueducts, and the Roman arch to artistic triumphs in sculpture and mosaic, Rome's aesthetic ideals shaped the Western artistic canon. Roman literature, with stalwarts like Virgil, Ovid, and Cicero, crafted narratives and treatises that are still studied and revered. Their musings on love, politics, war, and life find resonance even today. Theater and entertainment weren't left untouched. Romans were aficionados of theater, and while their plays might have been adaptations of Greek originals, they added their flair and themes, reflecting the Roman societal ethos. Gladiatorial games, though brutal, were a testament to Rome's love for spectacle and grandeur. Infrastructure was another realm where Rome showcased its genius. Roads, the famous Roman roads, were not just paths but symbols of Rome's reach. Built with precision and durability in mind, many of these roads remain, bearing testimony to Roman engineering skills. Aqueducts, a marvel of ancient engineering, transported water over vast distances, quenching the thirst of burgeoning Roman cities. The very concept of urban planning, with well-laid-out streets, sewage systems, and public spaces, saw significant advancement under Roman stewardship. Furthermore, the concept of a currency system, standardized across vast territories, was another Roman masterstroke. The Roman denarius, at one point, was a universally accepted currency, facilitating trade and commerce across the Mediterranean and beyond. Even religion saw a synthesis. While Romans had their pantheon of gods, they often assimilated deities from conquered regions, either equating them with their gods or integrating them into their religious practices. This fluidity ensured that the Roman religious fabric was diverse and inclusive. In essence, the Rome of antiquity might have been consigned to the annals of history, but its echoes are omnipresent. Be it in the languages spoken, the structures that stand, the books revered, or the coins exchanged, Rome lives on, not as a relic but as a vibrant undercurrent that continues to shape and mold the world. The legacy of Roman governance and law. Rome's monumental empire wasn't just built on military might or cultural prowess. At its core, the Roman strength was also rooted in its governance systems and legal structures. Today's world is still heavily influenced by these ancient constructs, many of which have withstood the test of time. The very concept of a Senate, a representative body deliberating on policies and decisions, originated in Rome. While the modern Senate might look and operate differently, its foundational principle is unmistakably Roman. Roman governance promoted the idea of residential publica, or public matter, from which the term republic is derived. This emphasized the state's duty towards its citizens and the collective ownership of public affairs. However, the most indelible mark Rome left on the modern world is its legal system. Roman law, as crystallized in the 12 Tables and later expanded upon, formed the basis for what is now known as civil law, prevalent in many countries worldwide. Its principles were simple yet profound: the law should be written, and justice should be equitable. Roman jurists introduced concepts that are taken for granted today. Innocent until proven guilty was a Roman innovation. The idea of habeas corpus, safeguarding individuals against unlawful detention, has its roots in Roman legal thinking. Property rights, contractual obligations, torts, and family law all owe a lot to Roman jurisprudence. Furthermore, the concept of legal precedent, where past judgments influence current cases, was practiced in Roman courts. This principle is foundational in today's common law system, especially in English-speaking nations. Then there's the Roman administrative system. The vast expanse of the empire necessitated a complex, yet efficient, bureaucracy. Provinces were governed by officials, taxes were levied and collected, and public works were commissioned. This meticulous administration ensured that the empire, vast and varied, functioned as a cohesive whole. Even the very idea of citizenship, with its rights and responsibilities, was a Roman contribution. Under the Edict of Caracalla in 212 CE, all free men in the empire were granted Roman citizenship, which was a revolutionary concept for its time, binding diverse peoples under a single identity. In sum, the Roman approach to governance and law has left an indelible mark on human civilization. Their principles, methods, and innovations continue to inform and guide today's world, a testament to their foresight and wisdom. The roads of Rome, it seems, don't just lead to the ancient city but also to many facets of the contemporary world. The legacy endures and conclusion. As the sun set on the Roman Empire, it cast a long shadow on the annals of history, a legacy so vast and profound that its echoes are still heard today. From architecture to governance, from language to law, the influence of Rome permeates the fabric of cultures worldwide. The empire, once sprawling across 3 continents, now resides in the very DNA of Western civilization. What's intriguing about Rome isn't just the grandeur of its monuments or the prowess of its legions, but its enduring spirit. A spirit that believed in order, in law, in the greater good. A spirit that built roads, not just of stone and mortar, but of ideas and ideals, connecting and shaping the future of humanity. As we close this journey through time, it's essential to recognize that history isn't just about past events or ancient relics, It's a dialogue between the past, present, and future. Rome serves as a compelling testament to humanity's ability to rise, innovate, conquer, falter, and yet endure. Thank you for journeying through Rome's captivating saga with us. If this exploration ignited a spark of curiosity, please like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement helps spread knowledge, and we're eager to continue sharing more stories from history. Do you have questions or thoughts about ancient Rome? Leave them in the comments below, and we'll strive to engage and answer. Remember, history is a tapestry woven from countless threads, and every click, share, and subscribe allows us to keep weaving stories for you.